I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this call in this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me by verifying that you are present. We'll start with the commissioners. Travis,
I'm here.
I can hear you fine. Thank you. Jonathan,
Present.
I am. I hear that okay. And then as far as staff goes, Lee is not is on vacation, but Jan is here. So Jan.
Present.
Very good. All right. So this open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 29th, 2023. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. This is done on the phone by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. During periods of public comment, participants must use the raise hand icon in the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on the phone by pressing *9 and then *6 to unmute you when you are called on. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview need to be addressed by the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed by the select board, and traffic concerns must be addressed with the planning board. Okay, seeing it's 7:03. Are there any items we can take care of ahead of the first public hearing?
We can read the continuance for 17 and 27 Upton Street.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Stormwater Bylaw, Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw, and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of an apartment complex at 17 and 27 Upton Street in Grafton. The applicant has requested a continuance to August 13th of 2024. Do I hear a motion to extend this public hearing to August 13th?
Yeah, I'll move to continue the hearing to August 13th for 17 and 27 Upton Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Jonathan?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I am also a yes. That motion carries. And the hearing is extended to August 13th. Okay, next up, Jan.
If we want to start with action items, you can just start at the top.
Okie doke. All right, action items. I got a little messed up on the meeting minutes because I was reading through them and I saw that I was making all these motions. I forgot Jonathan was the chair of that meeting and I was making motions because usually as chair you don't make the motions, but it was correct. I just had to go back and read it again. So having said that, hopefully everyone had an opportunity to read the meeting minutes from March 12th, March 26th, and May 7th. I'll go around and ask if anyone has any questions or comments on those. Travis, any comments or questions?
I wasn't at the one where Jonathan acted.
Okay.
Do I still vote on those?
I
don't
will leave
remember.
Okay, so I'll leave this up to you. So basically, we're reviewing meeting minutes. So if you had questions or anything else, you do not have to be at the actual hearing it's really just if there's any questions or something's not clear or you have comments and
No,
stuff.
look good to me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Jonathan, any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve March 12th, 26th, and May 7th meeting minutes?
So moved?
Have a second?
Second,
Roll call vote. Travis?
Yes.
Jonathan?
yes.
I am also a yes, the motion carries. Jan, anything to add for lots 1-3 at 1 to 3 at 62 Weston Street? They're looking for CRs.
Yep, so we had this one on earlier this year. And then they came back a few months later saying that they wanted to do a 30-year CR and we approved that. So
Yep.
now they're coming back with the actual CRs, the finalized version. The language was drafted by town council and the applicant's attorney. And it was changed to closely mirror the standards of the EEA format.
Okay.
So if we do decide to accept these, town council gave us wording for the motion they'd like us to make.
Okay. And that motion, that wording is in where? Or do you have
It's
it?
on the agent's report.
Okay. Which page is it on?
Page 4, the bottom.
Okay. All right. So quickly go around to the commission to see if anyone has any issues or questions on this CR that we've discussed a couple times. Travis, anything more on this?
No.
Jonathan?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. So I'll just, for ease, if you don't have the agent's report right in front of you, as far as the action item to accept lots 1 through 3 at 62 Weston Road. As Jan said, everything's the language was drafted by town council and the applicant's attorney. And the recommendation for the motion is move pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, to accept 3 conservation restrictions from Willett House and Clock Museum, Inc. on land identified as 62 Weston Street, lots 1, 2, and 3, and authorize the commissioners to execute all necessary documents in connection therein, therewith, subject to the approval of the select board and execution of the restriction by the grantee. So that's the suggested language. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
I am also a yes. That motion carries. Okay.
Next, we can take the minor change request for 18 Weston Street.
You want to just give us a brief update on that as I look for this? Go
Sure.
ahead.
So the applicant is proposing building a 12 by 40 foot deck on helical piles. The footprint falls just outside of the no disturb, so it isn't in conflict with the no disturbed laid out in the order of conditions. We did have one question. We approved a second floor deck off the building, and we just wasn't sure if that was being, if that's still being planned in this spot as well. I'm not
Okay.
sure if the applicant's on.
If you could check and see if they can answer that question. And the only question I have that it's a 12 by 40 and it's a minor change to what was the previous size of the deck, or is it because they switched to helical piles?
They weren't proposing a first floor deck. So
Okay.
they were only proposing the second floor.
Okay. And so the question is the second floor still proposed,
Mhm.
or is it 2 decks, which from the footprint's the same? So
Mhm.
it's really,
Yeah, and the
uh,
second floor deck is smaller.
okay. Do I have questions from the commissioners? Travis?
I guess we just need to know the change in the footprint size.
Yeah, that's, did you,
Yeah, if
did you
the-
guys? Yeah. Go
If the
ahead.
deck falls, if the deck still falls outside of the no disturb, then it's probably fine, right? Unless it's right on the edge. And then I guess my question would be, do we have signage or something like that, like the standard signage that we ask for?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it
Jan,
doesn't seem like a big
yeah.
deal.
Jan,
Yeah,
did we get a sketch of it?
Yeah, I can pull that up.
Okay, that might answer some questions.
Yeah, and I know the no
Yeah.
disturb signage is required in the order of
Condi-
conditions.
Oh, there it is.
So this was approved, the driveway and the barn here. So they're proposing the deck here. And the no disturb is here.
Okay, and oh, that's where the wetlands on the upside, on the top of the hill, right?
Mhm.
Okay, that's okay. All right. Jonathan, have any questions?
I guess the only question, and I guess Sandy, this would be I'm unsure if it's our purview or not, but if they do say it's 12 by 40 deck and we're gonna put an 8 by 26 above it, I don't know if that's our purview or not. I think, are we just only interested in what's in contact with the ground, or is it, because of it's really tough to tell how close that, it looks like it, to Travis's point, kind of comes close to it, but if they own non-disturb or no disturb signage, then
Right.
that shouldn't be an issue. I'm just wondering if are they doing it in lieu of the elevated deck? And again, is that our purview, or is this in lieu of,
Yeah.
is being done in lieu of this elevated deck? And I guess it sounds like a minor change, so
Right.
even if it's
So-
both.
Right.
don't think
I
that-
think it's for us, we just need to be clear on what it is. So this is the plan they're showing, this is the plan submitted. Yeah, we don't, from anything other than proximity to the no disturb and the wetlands, potential impacts on the wetlands, that's about it. They're going with
Right.
helical piles, which is, fairly straightforward. It does seem like a minor change. It's just making sure that we're clear on what that change is. That's, that to me is making sure whatever, um, whatever motion we make is clear and reflects this. So this one here, so this was done by land planning. So I know, Norm is on the line. If maybe he could answer that question, just because he happens to be here.
What was the question? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening that closely. What was the question?
That's okay. This wasn't really, we got a request for a minor change, for 18 Wesson Street, which is, the barn that's being put in and so forth. And they're adding, a deck to it. And they previously had a deck on the second level, and this is being done on the lower level. It's close to the no disturb, but it's just attached to the barn. I don't know if you know. I'm guessing this was your plan, so you guys added it.
Yeah, I haven't been to this site in a few years. I was involved a few years ago. They had a notice of intent and we flagged the wets but
Okay.
my guys did this plan. I guess they're proposing a deck. I haven't been out there in a few years, so I really
Yeah.
am not up to speed on what's going on here.
And that's fine. I'm just asking just to see if you, and again, it seems like a minor change, and we just want to make sure we understand the request and understand whether the other deck is still going to be there. And again, from our perspective, it's just proximity to the no disturb. So we just want to make sure whatever we do, we have it correct. That's all.
Mm.
So Jan, what was the request specifically?
The request is for this bottom deck, which is the 12 by 40.
Okay. So, and this would be a minor change based on just this, I would say the only thing that we should do to answer, Jonathan's question is confine it to the motion for the minor change of just this deck at this location. So it's explicit. We don't, if they had an upper deck previously proposed, then it's there. It's part of this
Mhm.
permit. This is the new part of the permit. So I'd go back to the other commissioners, whether they have any issues with this or you think this is not a minor change and requires something different. So, Jonathan?
No, I agree with what you just said. We can, if we were to approve anything, we would approve the minor change based on this plan that says proposed 12 by 40 deck and assume that that's at ground level on helical piers, and it doesn't indicate that there's an upper deck, if you will. And if there was an upper deck and it had impacts to what we're doing, then they would have to probably go for another minor change, right?
Yes, yeah.
We did already approve the upper deck.
Okay. So that's part of the permit already.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Travis, any other kind of comments on this?
As long as they can put up the no disturb signs, if that was part of the original condition, and if they can use the helical piers versus concrete footing, since that would require construction or
Yeah.
excavation. I guess we
So
could like approve that construction measure, then that's fine
Yeah.
with me.
that's what the request is for helical piles. So they're already requesting it. So it's part
Yeah,
of
okay,
it's part of that request and it should be part of the motion.
yeah,
So
just because it looks like it's so close to the 25 foot, so
yeah,
I'd be
I-
fine with it if that's part of the
yeah,
motion.
yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, that's what the request is specifically on helical piles, which I agree with that. Um, so this is a minor change. So do we have a motion to approve this minor change based on this drawing, this state for this plan, and the fact that they're putting in it on helical piles?
Where are we at? Weston Street. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I'll move to approve the minor change for 62 Weston Street. No, that's not right. 18 Weston Street.
Yep.
Second,
All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
yes.
I am also a yes. This passes as a minor change. All right, so we are at 7:19. Let us switch to our 7:15 meeting, and I need to go back to the lead sheet and do a public hearing for a request for determination for 7:15, and this is for 25 East Street. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for the removal of trees on the dam at 23 Rear and 25 East Street. And who's here to speak to that?
Good evening, this is Norman Hill from Land Planning. So, Jan, could you put up that sketch that I did? So, this property is located at 23 Rear East Street. And so East Street runs west to east, and it would be at the bottom of your screen. You can't quite see East Street. The garage is, oh, there you go. So East Street's at the bottom of your screen. So Hayes Pond is at the north end of your screen. So Hayes Pond, I don't know, I'm guessing it's maybe about a 10-acre pond. And there's a dam that holds it back. And so to the bottom right of your screen is all earth, and there's a garage and a house, and it's high ground. And then there's the spillway, concrete dam spillway. And then there's this dam that runs sort of to the northwest. That dam, I would estimate to be about 80 feet long, maybe 15 feet wide at the top. The dam appears to go straight down at the pond side of the dam. And on the downhill side of the dam, it's probably a 1-to-1 slope. It goes downhill to the river and to the BVW down below. Now, there are trees growing on this dam, so I walked this dam and I've put a circle each place where there was a tree. There's a couple of large trees. There's a 42-inch tree and there's a 48-inch tree, a 36-inch diameter tree. These are big trees. I imagine they've been growing maybe more than 40 years, some of them. So I've shown every tree that's growing on that dam. So my client has received an order from Mass Dam Safety telling him to cut all these trees down. Trees can compromise a dam if the root bundle gets too large. The critters get in there and it could compromise the dam. Now, my client has fixed up everything on the east side of the dam. It's all nice lawn and new concrete, and he's fixed the sluiceway and the spillway's in great shape. But this dam has these trees on it, and the dam safety would like him to cut the trees. So this work would be well within your 25-foot no disturb. Some of these trees are just 3 or 4 feet off the pond. Many of them are 10 to 12 feet off the pond, but all within your 25-foot no disturb zone. So we have asked for a waiver. We've asked the commission to waive that 25-foot disturb zone. Now, my client would hire a company to do this. I imagine, I haven't talked to I don't know if he's hired a company yet or not. I don't think he has. I think he's on the line here tonight. Maybe he could speak to this. But I imagine the tree company would park a crane on the east side of this dam by that garage and reach across and cut these trees down piece by piece and then bring them back over onto the east side of the dam and then truck them away. Certainly, they're not going to just drop them and let them fall into the pond or fall into the wetland. They'd have to remove each tree as they took it down. And we would accept that as a condition if you decide to vote this approved. So that's a quick overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so that's great. Just to, obviously the commission isn't going to say you can't remove these trees when you're coming in and it's a dam safety issue and it's being requested by the state. I don't think any of that's a problem, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from different people with a lot of questions. And from my perspective, it's really just making sure um, that it's done correctly. Now, this is kind of a dam safety issue, so it's not really our purview per se, other than the location of it, which obviously you can see here it is, and you've already mentioned it's within the 25-foot no disturb zone. I think the bigger question is some of the questions we receive. So why don't we kind of go through those and let you know? We'll start with DEP comments, which Jan, we just got them the other day or so
Yeah.
recently.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you received these yet. So their questions had to do with the kind of equipment that would be used to access the area to remove the trees, and the areas are the trees drawn on the plan the only vegetation to be removed. Is there any undergrowth or anything else? Typically, projects proposing removal of vegetations like dams require the root system to be removed, and we'll talk a little bit later about that. And long-term vegetation management. And if the long-term or continuous vegetation management is possible, that's something we could include as a condition in the NOI for long-term management. I guess kind of another question is, will dam safety be agreeable for the stump remaining? So I guess the question is, if the stumps are going to remain, is that an issue for dam safety? So obviously they sent a letter to say take the trees down, and if it's typically the roots are removed, we're not the right people to answer that question. So I guess I don't know if you've had conversations um, with dam safety, and if you've asked a question that the stumps could actually remain. And obviously, you've already mentioned that you have a waiver request for the no disturb. That's fine. And as kind of a side note, also it looks like that kind of bridge driveway culvert work is done, and that at some point we'll need to have a COC for that. And why don't we stop there and just kind of go through those kind of questions and if you have answers for them.
So I recommended to my client that he keep the stumps in place. You get a 48-inch diameter stump. I don't want him digging that out, might compromise the dam. Just take it down like maybe a foot above the ground and don't do any digging. Now, I walked across the spillway, and I've walked down this dam. The first 50 feet of the dam, it's very sparse vegetation. I didn't see any poison ivy or bushes. I just walked in there with sneakers. I walked across the spillway. It was just a trickle coming across the spillway that day. So I just walked across the spillway and walked out the dam. The last 50 feet of the dam, there was some undergrowth. There were some lower bushes, maybe 2 or 3 feet tall. Nothing really big. So I pointed out any tree that was bigger than 4 inches in diameter. There might have been a couple of 1-inch saplings, but I think I located all the trees. Now, I don't know if my client has talked to dam safety. He should be on the line here. When I'm done, I'm going to ask him to speak. Maybe he's talked to them about removing the stumps, but I would rather that they not remove the stumps. Now, regarding 25 East Street, which is where the garage is located and where the house is, that 25 East Street has the outstanding order of conditions where they were given permission to replace the damaged bridge. There was a little bridge that went over across the river onto this 25 East Street. Now, just to give you an update on that, that bridge has been installed, the guardrails mostly installed. I still have to do the 2 ends of the guardrail on both sides. And they've taken out the compensatory storage. We're about to survey that topography and get you an as-built plan on that and get you a request for certificate of compliance. But so 25 East Street is still outstanding. This particular application is regard to 23 rear, which is adjacent property, also owned by the same client. So George, if you're on the line, have you talked to dam safety about taking out the stumps? Doesn't sound like he's here. He
There's
I
was,
don't
no one
see
named
him on.
in the attendees either.
So,
no, I don't.
yes. Yeah, so I mean, I'll go around to all the commissioners and so forth. I mean, I don't feel comfortable saying yes, they can stay, no, they can't. It's a damn safety issue. And so for me, it's just getting an answer. I don't know if a copy of that letter requesting the removal of the trees was included in the submission.
It wasn't.
Okay. And again, I don't know enough about, you know, about the dam and about, obviously the trees can create, as you said, potential issues within the dam. So again, it's not particularly a wetland concern, but it's more just can the stump stay or not stay? That seems to be one of the key issues. And then just figuring out if that's what dam safety wants or whether you have to take them out, and if there's some procedure or something to do with that, then that's all we're looking to do. So, um, you
So,
know,
so right now we're saying we're going to leave the stumps.
yep.
If for some reason they say we have to remove the stumps, we'll have to come back to you later.
So yeah, what we're looking for is if you can answer that question ahead of time, and that's
Yeah, we're going to leave them. We're going to leave them.
okay. Um, okay. All right. So let me first go around to the other commissioners to see if they have any other questions. Travis.
If you leave the stumps and then they rot, won't that just cause larger erosion issues down the line? Like, I'm not a dam safety person, but I don't know, it
Yeah,
just seems like it's a
that's
bad idea.
and
And if
that's
you
what I
remove the
don't know.
stumps, then we would just require some sort of erosion control measures, right?
It's to me the procedure of doing that, which isn't really on us. It's more like what's the right way to do it on a dam. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have similar sentiment too, but I just don't know. Um, Jonathan, any other questions?
No. Nothing
Okay.
else.
So let's, at this point, just open it up to the public. If anyone has any comments or questions, just raise your hand. Jan, you want to call on those folks?
Sure, we have Robert Sims.
I was having trouble waiting my turn. Robert Sims, 111 Fowler Road, Northbridge, Mass. So dams are my jam. So I have answers to some of your questions. So for the dam, for modifying a dam, doing anything at a dam, the Office of Dam Safety has, excuse me, what they call a Chapter 253 permit. And there's an A part and a B part, and it all depends on the severity of what you're doing. So they would have to file this Chapter 253 with the Office of Dam Safety and see what they said. It's a valid question about if you leave them there and they rot, are you then creating a void? You are, but part of the determination of whether they stay or they go, the stumps stay or go, depends on where the design storm water elevation is. If those stumps are below where the water usually gets up to on the front of the dam, you don't want to,
Remove them.
there's a special procedure for working on those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the owner would need to file a Chapter 253 with the Office of Dam Safety, and then they would tell them what's the best approach.
Okay. And just curious, you mentioned that you're from Northbridge. Is there a particular reason that you're on specifically for this?
Oh no, I'm on for the Grafton Water District.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I appreciate you chiming in then, because you certainly know more than I do as far as the dams go, and that's helpful. And us
Yeah,
being
it
part
kind
of
of
the city.
like the other commissioner said, the stumps will rot, and it's kind of dam safety's call is to, if you're looking at the profile of the dam, where are the roots, and if the roots go down into the part of the dam that's impeding water, and the size matters. It's really dam safety's call on that. So
Okay.
the Part A, just for norm's sake, the Part A is fairly easy to put together. It's a cross section, some elevations. It's really not that big a deal. If they're required to do the Part B, that's a little bit more entailed. So
Now
if you need any
that's
help with that, Norm, I'm happy to help you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You can do the Part A with no trouble and send that to Dam Safety. So they're of all the state agencies, they are by far the best to work with. They're responsive, timely. They're really good. You won't really have too much of a problem with them, I don't think, but they do require the permit.
Okay. I
right, thank you.
appreciate the input because it actually allows us to probably be able to proceed with this because now we have some options and so forth, and we understand what the next kind of steps are and how to set up conditions. So,
You
all
bet.
right. So, yeah, and then again, this is just around the question of the stump staying or leaving. That's good to know that it's up to dam safety to determine whether they stay or leave and the procedure to do that. So from my perspective, as far as doing an RDA, and I'll check with each commissioner. I mean, they've been directed to remove these by dam safety, so I don't see a reason why we would not allow that done. But just let me get the input from the commissioners. Travis?
Nothing else from me.
Jonathan?
Are we gonna defer to dam safety? So if we were to pass something, or are we going to continue and wait for dam safety?
I was going to, yeah, and that's exactly the direct next step I was going to go to is to say, because we know that they have to submit and get a determination from dam safety, we can create a condition that says no work can proceed until that permit is received. Now, we don't want to get involved in that permit. And if the permit says to leave the stumps, then they can proceed. If it says to remove the stumps, and then they have to go to, another determination, and they have to submit procedures on how to do that, we're basically, I guess what I'm looking is to defer to dam safety as far as whether they stay or go, and we need to
Mhm.
have written, the written response from dam safety of the determination for them to proceed, but it would get them through this process,
Okay.
you know.
No,
And
no other
yeah,
questions then.
okay.
I'm clear now.
So
Thanks,
they
Andy.
would have to come back if they have to remove all the stumps.
Correct, correct. If
Yeah.
they don't, then we would just need a copy of that determination. If they have to remove them, then yes, they would need to get, they would
Okay.
need to come back in front of us. Yeah. Okay. So Norm, how does that, the direction that we're going in is to set up a condition based on
That would-
what the permitting is with dam safety.
That would be fine.
Okay. So, one potential condition that Leah had is obviously when is it done during low flow period, and whether the stumps are to remain or to be taken out. I think for us we need to step away from that, have dam safety provide that determination and any other kind of procedures with that. Um, yeah, so that's we're gonna, as far as all the process and procedures regarding the actual removal, we'll leave that to dam safety. So for potential conditions, obviously, one of the things I would put in, Jan, is something around, no work can proceed until an assessment is given by dam safety regarding the trees in tree stumps. And if the tree stumps can remain, um, then they could proceed with the process as outlined in their determination. If the stumps need to be removed and there's a more elaborate process to remove those, then they would need to come back. How does that generally sound to the commissioners, Travis,
Yep, that works for me.
Jonathan?
So, sounds
Uh,
good.
All right, then it's just then I don't really want to get muddled down in just the procedural part of it since it's not our real purview as far as dam safety. It's more just how it may impact um, the wetlands. And to be honest, the most important thing is to have that dam stay a dam and not change dramatically in any way. Um, Anyone else, Jan, from the public, raise their hand or have comments or questions?
Nothing from the public, just a reminder, we'll need the move on the waiver request.
Yes, yeah, I had that written down. I kind of went
Mm.
over that. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do is just if someone could make a motion to grant the waiver for working within the 25-foot no disturb.
I'll move to grant a waiver for work in the 25-foot no disturb for 25 East Street.
Second.
Yeah, motion is second. Roll call vote. Travis
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
Okay. So that takes care of that one part. Um, as far as the one thing that Leah was proposing about, should this be done during low flow period? I think that should be part of the determination that dam safety can make. So we'll go with that. Um, so again, just to kind of clarify it and make sure I'm still on the same path with everyone, is that the one condition that we're proposing is that no work can proceed until the required assessment from dam safety is received and submitted to the Conservation Commission. And part of that assessment is whether the stumps are to stay or they have to be removed. If they are to stay, then the work can proceed. if the stumps need to be removed, then the applicant will need to come back and basically describe the process of how those stumps will be removed.
And we're leaving the determination of work done during the low flow period to dam safety as well.
Yes, I mean, I think if they have a requirement for that, I'd rather have it in their words than I don't know. And again, when you're talking about um, roots and saturated roots and wood and all this other kind of stuff, I'll leave it to dam safety to have any comments on that. All right. Having gotten through that, roll call of any other questions with this, and then we can move to have a vote. Jonathan,
Say that one more time, Sandy.
do
Questions?
you have any
or-
other kind of comments or additions to that? Okay.
Nope.
Travis, anything to add?
No, this works for me.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
What on earth are we making a motion for?
So do you want to have Jan reread it so that we all know we're all on the same page? I
Is it
saw
a
you taking
negative?
notes.
No. Is it a
Oh, oh, oh,
negative determination?
it is a negative determination. Yes.
Yeah, that's the word I needed. So I'll move to close the hearing and issue a negative determination with the conditions as discussed for 25 East Street.
Second.
Okay. I'm just gonna add one thing to that, is to say that we should have a finding that, you know, the reason these trees are being removed is because they were directed to by dam safety. That's just kind of a finding which we've already discussed. So, okay, so we had a motion and second.
Before we
Um,
finalize it, Sandy, do we
yes.
need to, there was no one from the public that made comment?
Other than, yes, I believe there was just
Yeah.
Robert who gave us some advice or gave us some insight, but I believe, Jan, there was no one else.
Nothing further.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. So we have a motion and a second. We have the condition and findings. Do I have, I will do a roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
I am also a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. Everyone's-
right.
Thank you.
All right, Jan, as far as the order of where we want to take things, does it matter? Do I just start at the top?
Yep, we can keep going down.
Okay. Okay, so so this next one is at Highfields, which means Travis. Are you gonna
I'm recusing myself. Water
okay.
break.
Yep, no problem. All right. So so that's fine. So I will read that in. Excuse me as I move my cat. Sorry. Sorry, kid. All right. All right. So 42 McGill. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for tree removal at 42 McGill Drive. And who's here to speak to that?
That would be me, Byron Andrews, Dupree Engineering.
All right. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So if you recall, there were some trees removed by our client, McGill Associates, in an area of where they want to illumine seed. They want to move the golf course further to the right from where it is now. The reason for doing that is they have two building lots that they're developing, and they want to ensure the safety of the future residents by moving the play area further away from their lots. They were not aware that they were as close to the wetlands as they are. So it was determined that we should apply for an RDA for that work. We appeared with a plan, I don't know, maybe about a month ago. Subsequent to that, there was a request to clarify where the 25-foot buffer was and also include information on plantings. So we revised the plan. This plan shows, this plan is the result of a field survey where we located the extent of the disturbance. And what we are proposing, if you see the plan, there are basically the blue areas that there are 3 different tones from light to dark. The lightest area is the area where they remove trees outside of the 25-foot buffer, where they would like to loom and seed it. And they are prepared to do that as soon as possible and get that work done quickly. The slightly darker blue, where you can see plantings proposed, that's in the 25-foot buffer. So it was determined that within the 25-foot buffer, it could not be loomed and seeded, and it had to be restored. So we are proposing restoration there with native trees, shrub growth, and smaller growth. In addition to that, there's a dark blue area, which is an area that was disturbed by one of the abutters. However, the abutter can't be held responsible for it as far as the Conservation Commission is concerned, because the responsibility goes to the landowner, which is McGill Associates. They're perfectly willing to do the repair work themselves. They'd like to get started on it and get it done right away. So they are proposing to also repair the area that has been disturbed by other parties. We don't show plantings in there, but if you look at the planting schedule on the right, what we are proposing is to basically use the same density and type of plantings that we're using in the area of the 25-foot buffer that we're restoring. Use that within the darker blue area of the 25-foot buffer and the wetland, which was partly vegetated prior to the disturbance. We are also proposing to have a representative either from the Conservation Commission or someone appointed by the Conservation Commission to meet our client on site to go over the plantings, what's required, where they would like to see it. One other feature of the plan that we are showing is per the request at the last meeting we're showing erosion control areas anywhere where it slopes away from the area of disturbance, or where there's a potential for that even. We are showing in red, we are showing erosion control areas. There's a small area that doesn't show erosion control area, but that's because that's at a higher grade than the area where we'll be working. So we don't foresee any problems with erosion in that area.
All right, all set? Do you have anything else? Okay. So just one thing I want to mention to you up front. So right now we have 3 commissioners on, at this public hearing. Travis is an abutter and is recusing himself. So you have the 2 remaining commissioners. So my understanding is that we have a quorum, and just because one member recuses himself does not prevent us from proceeding. However, I just want to make sure that you're aware of it, and if you have any issues or uncomfortable, you can certainly request a continuance to when we have, a third member who's not going to recuse themselves. But I guess I'm giving you that option if you felt uncomfortable or whatever. I don't particularly feel uncomfortable proceeding with this particular one. So,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. If we can't make a decision tonight, and if there are other recommendations, we're happy to deal with that too. But we would like to get it resolved tonight if possible.
okay. Thank you for that answer. So, I'm going to go through kind of the report from our agent, just to give you and anyone in the public an update. So she indicated the revised plans addressed the areas of disturbance, and also the fact that because the work is being done within the 25-foot no disturb, we'll need a waiver for that for that work to be done. Um, and then as far as recommendations, um, we'll go through these, but that all notes are approved on the approved plan will be adhered to. Work within resource areas. Resource areas shall occur during dry conditions. Plantings shall be installed and the next growing season shall be monitored for 2 growing seasons. and replace as needed. That's a standard from DEP. And erosion control shall be removed upon final stabilizations. Those are just her kind of recommendations on the information that she received. You also indicated that you would be open to having someone come as far as the plantings go. So typically on this type of restoration work, we would have Art Allen, our peer reviewer on the wetland side, to do that work. So if that's acceptable, we'll reach out to Art to see if he'll do that. He's done it on other projects and so forth. And so, Jan, did I miss anything from what's in Leah's report?
Nope, you hit it all.
Okay. So let me just touch base with the commissioners to see if they have anything else they want to add or if they have conditions. So Jonathan.
I think it hit all the notes and I don't have any other questions or anything on this one.
All right. Travis.
Still recusing myself.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. Jan, is there, why don't we also, if you could take a look, if there's anyone in the public that happens to be online, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to raise your hands and we will um, allow you to ask those questions and answer any questions either from the commission or through the applicant. All right. So as far as Jonathan, let us have a discussion. I will try not to keep calling on Travis as he's recusing himself. As far as kind of the recommendation, as far as um, as far as the conditions, you don't have anything more to add. I'm also looking at these. I also don't have anything more to add.
I didn't see anything. They seem pretty straightforward with what we've done in the past for restoration and everything. So
Okay.
didn't see anything.
Yeah. So next thing, Jan, is to grant or vote and grant the waiver or vote on the waiver, correct?
Correct.
All right. So this is going to be a little bit dicey. So what I'm going to ask is that procedural wise, Jonathan, if you could make a motion
Mm-hmm.
to grant the waiver for notice, and then I'll second it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to grant the waiver for work within the no disturb due to the nature of the proposal for 42 McGill Drive, Highfields.
All right. And I will second it simply because our third commissioner has recused himself. So that is motion's been made and seconded. So we'll do a roll call vote on the waiver. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis, just say you're recusing yourself, Travis.
Recusing myself.
And then I am also a yes on that. And so that motion passes. So the waiver is done on that.
And then do you want me to make a motion now, Sandy?
Yes, please.
And we haven't heard anything from the public, Jan?
Nothing from the
Question.
public.
Okay. I'll make a motion to close the hearing and issue a negative determination with the conditions that were read out loud prior for 42 McGill Drive, Highfields, tree removal.
All right. And I will second that motion and we'll do a roll call vote. Same thing again. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
Recusing myself.
and I am a yes. And so that passes. So at this point, other than if I would ask Byron just to follow up with Jan and Leah about having Art Allen go out when you want to do your plantings. That actually is, I appreciate that recommendation that you made because it makes it much easier for us. And he is the right person with the right background to do that. Other than that, good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
All right. All right, next up, 5 Millennium Drive. And who's here for that? And I will read that in. Okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw Permit, and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw Permit for the construction of a multifamily residence at 5 Millennium Drive. And who's here to speak to that?
Good evening. My name is Bill Lovett. I'm with the Claremont Companies, and thank you again for the commission's time this evening. I'm going to quickly hand it over to Phil Cordero with Allen and Major, who will provide us with an update on the revisions to the plans that we made based primarily on the comments from the Conservation Commission at our previous hearing. So with that, I'll turn it to Phil.
Great, thank you, Bill. For the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. And I guess I could ask, could Jan please bring up the site plans? It'll be easy just to graphically depict everything for you. Specifically sheet 18 or 19 of the latest plan set. If that's possible, then I'm happy to walk the commission through what we've done.
Sure, just a moment.
Thank you. While she's bringing that up, yeah, I guess we can get some administrative things out of the way. Since our last meeting with the commission, we have completed the technical peer review with Graves Engineering. Those were being run concurrently with the planning board and conservation relative to stormwater. We did have one final lingering comment from Mr. Walsh at Graves Engineering regarding some total suspended solids calculations that we believe we've satisfied him based on our response to his comments from July 8th. We've copied Jan and Leah and the planning staff on our responses. Mr. Graves asked us to, excuse me, Mr. Walsh asked us to send in a formal response to comments letter to which he's going to respond to in writing, just so everything is formal for the record. We haven't seen that yet, but I believe the correspondence should be in the commission's file that he will be acceptive of the change that we're suggesting. If I may, Jan, if you
Just, excuse me for a second. So Jan, do we have that information? I was just going back to what we had in the Dropbox.
The last letter we have from Graves is from 7/5. Regarding the TSS, that was an email from Leah. I don't have a copy of that.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, that was when Mr. Walsh issued his letter. We received it. We engaged in some brief conversation via email to address, he had two comments remaining in the letter. One is making sure we satisfy the fire department. So obviously generally not applicable here, but we attested to him that we're working to do so and we'll take care of it. But the other, which would most certainly is your purview relative to total suspended solids because of the stormwater system, we needed to outline for him how we were compliant with the pre-treatment requirements of the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw. And we've done that. We exchanged the information via email to prove that. And then we formally submitted that information through to the Conservation Commission and the Planning Department at the tail end of last week. It was just a response letter from my office and the calculations that supported it.
And basically what you're talking about is the TSS to be at 90%?
That's correct, at 90%, yes.
And what's your treatment train that you're getting to the 90%?
So we have, we of course have deep sump-hooded catch basins, which is 25%. And then we had previously provided for record our proprietary water quality separators, which are contact water quality units. We had only requested a 50% credit on those based on some prior guidance when the Mass STEP and the TARP program concluded years ago. We spoke to Mr. Walsh and I said, if we can provide you the manufacturer's sizing calculations, which we did, and they were in the original stormwater reports, quite frankly, with no changes to them. The manufacturer reports that we can achieve 90% through those units natively, and they've provided all of the gradation curves that support that. So ultimately, the 25% from the catch basins, in addition to a 90% from the water quality device, gets the 90% the town requires. And then we would get the 80% TSS credit that an infiltration system generates. for the total treatment train.
Okay. So you
Mhm.
have all 3 of them in that treatment train, so, okay,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
All right.
Terrific.
Just getting it for the record and to be a little bit clearer on that process, and so please,
Yes,
go
and-
ahead. Yeah, go ahead and proceed.
Okay, nope, no problem. Thank you. Could I ask you to just back up a couple of pages on the plan set, please, Jan? I'm just looking for the layout plan, which might be 2 sheets behind here. 2 sheets behind here. The layout plan is the easiest to see the changes that we've made as a result of the commission. So, okay. This is fine, what's on the screen right now. So when we met with the commission at the initial introduction to the hearing, we had proposed retaining walls along the easterly portion of our site due to the relative nature of the cut and fills. And some of those walls will be in excess of 15 to 18 feet. And the commission had asked us detailed questions about the nature of those walls, the constructability of those walls, and really to reinforce to you, the commission, that we do not need a waiver from the 25-foot no-touch buffer that the town of Grafton has in place. We spoke at that time because we were holding 1 to 2 feet off of the face of the wetland buffer, the 25-foot wetland buffer. We had indicated that we could likely build those with no problems. But we took the commission's concerns to heart, and we went back and we met with our construction team. We also met with the retaining wall manufacturers. We reviewed those the necessary build areas that they would want under ideal circumstances. And what we've done here is the entrance to our site, which comes in the upper right corner of the plan. It comes into the site, and then we've tucked it a little bit tighter in towards our buildings. You can see the curvature right as it enters into the parking field. But what that has allowed us to do is to pull everything about 10 to 15 feet away from the 25-foot wetland buffer, which has afforded us an opportunity to have 6 to 8 feet of ground clearance from the face of the wall at the lowest course of the retaining wall to the wetland buffer. And on all accounts by everybody on our design team, that should be more than adequate to build the walls without the need for any potential intrusion into the buffers, without the need to come back to this commission if we have to revisit this matter later. But we believe it's a very positive change to the site planning design and really helps the commission's intent relative to preservation of that 25-foot buffer. Relative to the internal workings of the site itself, minimal changes. We've lost 2 parking spaces as a result of the shift, but no changes to any of our stormwater systems, no changes to the nature of the retaining walls, no changes to total suspended solids, no changes to infiltration. So all of the elements that Mr. Walsh at Graves had reviewed and ultimately agreed to in his July letter remain in effect regardless of this change that was put forth a couple of weeks ago. The last thing that we also did is the commission had also asked us to make certain that we provided cross sections through the retaining wall adjacent to the wetland buffer. And we did provide that additional sheet for record in the plan set that's on the screen currently. It's, let me see if I can get you the exact number, forgive me. It is sheet number, I believe 600 in the series, in the drawing series. And that provides the cross sections that the commission had asked for of us. And I'm happy to walk through those if there's any questions or concerns on the information. They are schematic illustrative cross sections of the proposed, the finished grade relative to the retaining wall elevations, and certainly the elevations of our stormwater systems located below or adjacent to the retaining wall, to the back of the retaining wall. And we'll see as those come up.
So just one quick question is
Please.
that you shifted the wall and you described generally it's based on curving the driveway in and so forth.
Yes.
About how many linear feet of wall, and I'm not looking for an exact number, shifted?
So we ended up actually moving about probably 250 feet of linear wall. I apologize. I wish I could point to for you on the screen. But basically, where if you're looking along the driveway on the image that's on the screen right now, there are 4 light poles that are centered in the median. From about that point of the 4th light pole, along that entire stretch of the driveway to where it encounters one radius and then a reverse radius as it approaches the parking field, that amount of retaining wall was adjusted to better the separation.
Okay, that's very helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, sheet C601 is the cross-section sheet, please.
there we go.
There you are. Thank you very much. So again, you know, on the left, very self-explanatory. Hopefully, I'm happy to walk through it, of course, for the commission. But the intent of these was to really clarify the relationship between the native grade, the proposed grade, the retaining wall solution, the drainage, and everything associative with that area. And for some granular details, in the event the commission is interested in it, we are looking at doing a Ready Rock retaining wall here, which is a large gravity block wall. So once we have the base course in place, then those wall blocks would stack up to make the 15, 18 feet of height that we need along this stretch of the property.
So, Jan, if you could just zoom into the upper left-hand side, that first section going through there, and if Phil, you could just generally,
Yep.
just generally go through each one of them, just for the clarification of the commission and the public.
Absolutely. So the upper left section is the one closest to Millennium Drive. It does not have a retaining wall. This is the area where we have transitional slope to make up the grade. The darkest portion, the darkest lines at the top of the cross section represent the proposed finished grade of the site, with the thinner black dashed line below it representing the existing grade. And there you might be able to clearly see the amount of fill that will be going into the site to build up the plateau to support the buildings and the development. The right portion of the cross section is the wetland resource area, along with the wetland resource area buffer line. It's designated by those faded trees, just to give you an indication as to where the wood line would remain and where the buffer zone would remain completely intact. The darkened slope, obviously, between the proposed and the tree line represents that transitional vegetated slope that we are proposing. And if you could just pan slightly to the right on the page, you can see clearly where that slope line is, where cross-section AA runs through. You can see all the lines sort of directly below that north arrow. That's the slope that we're depicting in AA. We do have the 2 flared ends coming out of that slope, which are buried at the bottom of the slope. We do have riprap embankments that have been properly sized to make sure it absorbs all of the velocity coming out of those pipes during the 100-year storm event. So we're not having a scour issue. We've brought that flow down to permissible velocities under the Stormwater Management Handbook. And the length of riprap that you see there is the length of riprap that we need in order to accommodate that.
Is that a stepped one for energy diffusion?
It's not stepped. What we've done is we've brought the level of the flared end down in the slope, so that way the riprap pad is as level as it can be. I mean, it's never truly level, of course, but it's as level as it can be. So we're not discharging water on a 3-to-1 slope through the riprap. While we would get some velocity dissipation in there, it's not as effective as we would want it to be. So we actually stepped the discharge pipe in the manhole so it can come out of the slope lower in the slope.
And so basically what you're saying it for, again, for not only the commissioners, but also people looking at that, is when you look, if you want to point Jan to that slope in the manhole, which is, if you go to the section, if you go over to the top section, and I wish I could mark this up so to explain it, but there's a manhole right underneath that car. And basically, yeah, if you go over to the right, to the car on the right, there's a box there. That's the manhole, I'm guessing. And
Yeah.
then what you did is instead of coming up high on the slope, you're coming down lower so that it's more of a flat area as you come out. So,
That's correct. It enables us to keep that discharge pipe flatter and then the riprap dissipator flatter still. And the combination of those two is the velocity dissipation that we're going for.
and the reason
Correct.
why it doesn't show in the section is because the section line is in between those two pipes and those two discharges.
That's exactly it. We could try to draft it in, but then astute commissioners might say, well, it's not exactly on the section line, so how do we believe it? So that's why it doesn't show up on the line. Yeah, you're right on top of it.
And then going to the next section line, if you want to do a quick
Mhm.
description of that, and this is an area where the retaining wall moved.
Yes. So that's exactly right. So you can clearly see on section BB, again, the same general premise proposed on the top, existing on the bottom. The darkened line that is near vertical is the retaining wall that we are proposing, which is represented by the thick dark line on the right side of the screen. And this one has a very deep woodline section before we even approach the 25-foot resource area buffer, which we have about 68 or so feet as measured along that wood line, and then we have the 25-foot of buffer zone there. So we're able to achieve a very large section through here. So the wall began its taper right about here. We didn't necessarily need the adjustment here. We actually benefit from the adjustment on the next couple of sections, but this is where that work starts. That's where the adjustment begins.
And then if you just want to keep going to CC, section
Yes.
CC.
So CC, again, is the shorter one, which is just a few feet away. And what you're going to be able to see there, again, same premise exactly, is at the base of the retaining wall on the section. If you're able to zoom in on it, you'll see that we're maintaining that 6+ feet from the base of the wall to the face of the native wood line that's going to remain on section CC. And then that same premise is actually going to carry forward to section DD. With the same beneficial 6 to 8 feet. And I keep using the term 6 to 8 feet because it does vary a little bit as you're moving along those lines. The minimum clearance for us is 6 feet. In some areas, we achieve 8 feet or a little bit greater than that through this pinch point area. And then obviously, as you go closer towards the street line, the buffer falls away from the development and we achieve greater separation distances.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Please continue with your presentation.
So I don't have much else. We're pleased to provide these changes to the commission because we think it addresses a concern that was very well voiced, and we're happy to respond to them. I believe the Graves Engineering Review letter from last week, the beginning of July, that notes that we've satisfactorily addressed his stormwater concerns, hopefully weighs on the minds of the commissioners relative to the stormwater management permit, then ultimately the order of conditions here. Those are our updates, and I guess I would turn it to the commission for any questions that I could answer for you.
All right, so first we'll go through and ask the commissioners to see if they have any other questions, specifically on some of the updates and just generally other questions. I'll go through the agent's report, and then we will obviously open it up to the public for any questions they may have or any comments they'd like to express. So, Jonathan, any other questions on the direction of where the plans are?
No, I thought that was pretty clear.
All right. Travis.
No other questions from me.
Okay. I'll just go through some of the comments from our agent's report. As far as discussed last time, is the fact that the commission has a policy of not disturbing more than 5 acres at one time. That's based on prior experiences and not good experiences, and it's just a way to minimize the area of what's exposed to then minimize the actual potential erosion control issues that you may have. The applicant has kind of requested a waiver from that, and they'll need approximately 7.5 acres. The reason why is, as was previously indicated, is because this is such a large cut fill site. You know, to try to do it in 5 acre increments, you end up having to manage the soil and maybe possibly take it off and bring it back on. By allowing the entire developable area as shown on the plans at 7.5 acres. The whole idea is that you move the soil within. Whenever we look to, um, allow a waiver like that, there has to be a reason for it. And the second part of it, we want to see a more robust erosion control plan. So that's really, kind of behind that, and we will take a vote on that and ask any specific questions on that. Um, and then as far as special conditions, pretty standard one on a project this size. We'll request a copy of the SWIP, the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, which is required to go to, it's called a NIPDES permit. It's required by the EPA on any sites disturbing more than an acre. We do not review or approve it. We review and approve the erosion control plan, but the SWIP is an additional, document that actually indicates to the contractor what they must be doing on a day-to-day basis, and is always supposed to be updating it. Other special conditions that we want to just let the applicant know about as far as snow storage, we'll have a condition that it'll be stored around the perimeter of the parking areas, parking islands and amenity spaces, or trucked off site in accordance with the EP snow removal policy. It shall not be stored within any buffer zones or any stormwater management facilities. Any excess fill not reused on site shall be removed from the site and properly disposed of. Upon completion of the construction of the retaining wall, no disturb signage shall be installed and observed throughout the remainder of construction. I'm guessing you're going to be the wall will be one of the first things that you construct. Can you just confirm that?
It would be early on in the process. Obviously the first thing we would need to do, clear the site. We would start the earthwork removal process because of the extensive nature of the ledge removal. But then as soon as conditions allow, we would start building that wall. So I guess step 3 of the process, but all of those will be very closely related in terms of timeline.
And it's all part of the earthworking process. So you're not going to be doing any other kind of development work, whether it's utilities or anything else, until you get that wall in.
That's likely correct. I mean, it's not advantageous to us, nor is it actually, quite frankly, feasible, given the amount of rock we need to remove from the site, the amount of fill placement that needs to occur in order to allow us to start getting foundations in and utility infrastructure in.
Now we just talk about the amount of earthworks. So we will be requiring a bond for the erosion control and site stabilization. So understand when we put a bond in, we're not doing it to say it's not like a subdivision bond where you're supposed to complete things. That's not what it's about. It is really just about if for some reason there's either a long delay in the process of it, or if for some reason the applicant and those leave the site in a state where it needs to be restored to be stabilized. And what I mean by that is just to make sure that whether it's just flattened out and seeded and so forth, we're not looking to do anything. So our bonds are very specific, and that is under our stormwater bylaw, is to make sure the site is stabilized.
And
And
who,
so-
Madam Chair, who establishes that bond? Do we submit a quantity and estimate to you that you review, or does your consultant review that?
Typically, we'll request the applicant to submit an estimate, and we'll have our peer reviewer review it.
Okay,
Similar to on the subdivision planning board side, similar approach. It's just a lot less. It's specifically around stabilization of the site. If all 7.5 acres are open, what's going to take to stabilize it. So,
understood.
okay. And then as far as specific blasting agents are not going to be used in connection with this project. And that's just a protection of the wetlands. and specifications from the geotech and structural engineer shall be adhered to with respect to the fill placed in the areas of the retaining wall and stormwater infiltration chambers. And I'm guessing you have a geotech on board that'll be, preparing all those. And again, it's really just to make sure where there's some very large tanks and so forth, that that they're installed properly and they do not move at all. Prior to
Confirmed.
commencement, prior to commencement of work, we'll need a stamp design for the retaining wall to be submitted. And then also a signed illicit discharge statement shall be submitted. Okay. So having said that, I'll go around to the commissioners for any additional potential conditions or any other questions or comments based on what we've heard tonight. So Travis, anything?
No, nothing else from me.
Okay. And Jonathan, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. So at this point, we'll open it up to the public. And while, if anyone raises their hands, let us know. Otherwise, we'll continue on with some kind of paperwork, so to speak, to take care of. And I think the first one is to grant the waiver to go to 7.5 acres of impervious, so of 7.5 acres of disturbance as opposed to our policy of 5 acres. So if I could have a motion on that, either and just basically as a finding on that, it has to do with the cut and fill requirements for the site, which is the reason why it would be waived. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to grant a waiver from the 5-acre cut fill requirement to allow 7.5 acres of disturbance.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Roll call vote on that. Travis?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Jan, anyone from the public?
Nothing from the public.
Okay. All right, so I'll go back to the applicant. Do you have any specific questions on the conditions that kind of went through at this point?
I had a very brief one. Madam Chair, you noted about providing the stamped retaining wall and the signed illicit discharge. Just confirming, those are administrative submissions to the office, or does that entail an appearance in front of the commission? Just thinking about timing of all of that.
So that would be to staff. If it's a stamped, obviously, Mass PE structural. If it's stamped, whoever stamps it, if it's as long as it's got the Mass structural stamp on it, that just comes, and it's an administrative process. It does not have to come back to the commission. The only reason it would come back to the commission is if for some reason the wall location changes, and then you'd be into some sort of minor change or something, depending upon what it is. So,
Got it. Thank you.
okay, yeah. Is that the only question that you have on any of the conditions, special conditions?
Yes, no further questions.
Okay. And all right, Jan, tell me how I'm doing, and did I miss anything?
You got it all.
Okay. All right. So again, just double checking with the public if anyone has raised their hand or would like to speak.
Nothing from the public.
Okay. All right. Having said that, now comes a fun time. Who's going to be doing the proposing, doing the motion? Maybe what I'll do real quickly is to just go back through the conditions really quick so that we can then just go right to a motion. So as far as special conditions, request a copy of the SWIP. Snow to be stored around perimeter of parking areas, on parking area islands, in amenity spaces, or trucked off-site in accordance with DEP snow removal policy. It shall not be stored within any buffer zones or stormwater management facilities. Any excess fill will not reused on site shall be removed from site and properly disposed of. Upon completion of the construction of the retaining wall, no disturbance signage shall be installed and observed throughout the remainder of construction. Bond for erosion control, site stabilization, stormwater management shall be issued. Percolate blasting agents shall not be used in connection with this project. Specs from the geotechnical and structural engineer shall be adhered to with respect to fill placed in areas of the retaining wall and stormwater infiltration, and also copies of the specifications shall be submitted. Prior to the commencement of work, a stamp design for retaining wall shall be provided, and they will be reviewed by the admin. There will be an administrative review of it. Prior to commencement of work, signed illicit discharge statement shall be submitted, and again, that will be an administrative review. All right, having said all of that, do I have a motion?
I'll move to close the hearing for 5 Millennium Drive, issue the permit with the special conditions as discussed.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jan, keep on rolling.
Yep.
Okay, so we are back to 98 Worcester Street. Okay, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the repair of a retaining wall at 98 Worcester Street. And who is here to speak to that?
Robert Sims, 111 Fowler Road, Northbridge, Mass, with Comprehensive Environmental, representing the Grafton Water District.
You have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if Jan got this today, but we received an email notice from Central Region with the DEP number. I'm not sure. I didn't recognize all the emails. There was Concom Grafton was on there. I assume that's you. Conservation Grafton. I just want to make sure you guys you got it before I start talking about it.
I did not receive the DEP number. Let me see if
Okay.
it went to another inbox, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's one of our comments, is that we're still waiting for DEP in their comments. So
Yeah, so I got it at 4:57 this afternoon. So
okay, I would guess that that would be unreasonable for our staff to receive that and get it onto the agenda, which was posted, and get it onto our report that's sent out to us a day or two ahead of time. So
oh yeah, no, it was. I agree with you. It was a little ironic that you know the Central Region asked for another copy the day of the hearing, which kind of irritated me a little bit, but you know, that is what it is.
So yep. So let's keep on going. Let's go ahead and do your presentation, and we'll get.
Okay,
to that.
so we were given a file number. I assume that Jan will get this email tomorrow, and we'll distribute information around. Let me just find out. I lost my place. So they gave the number. Issuance of a file number indicates only completeness of the submittal, not approval. Although a file number has been issued, please note the following. DEP recommends the commission refrain from issuing I think they said OCC, I think they meant OOC, an order of conditions until they receive written determination from Natural Heritage regarding work with the map established habitat, and any findings or conditions contained therein incorporated into the order of condition issued for the project. So we had sent them, I had sent DEP, you know, everything that we gotten, including the letters back from Natural Heritage with the recommended condition for the permit, you know, regarding the turtle protection plan, and you know, everything associated with that. And then the only other thing DEP had on the letter was they recommend the commission considering the work only during the low flow periods of the year. And I know, so the last hearing we had, we were waiting for a DEP number, which we have. We have Oxbow, under contract to start developing the plan and have site visits planned for when the construction starts. And I was hoping that we could, since there's only one meeting in August, that we could conditionally close the hearing based on whatever comes out of the turtle protection plan from Oxbow.
Okay,
We're in the low flow period now, and we're kind of, if we get to August, now we're starting to not get in a low flow period. I was planning to go by there today, but I didn't get a chance to. So,
Yeah.
But I would imagine the flow is fairly small. But
yeah, I would think August should be a little bit lower, but anyways, but that's let's just kind of get to what we have here. So,
okay.
so kind of outstanding. So I'm going to go through the report that we have that Leah put together, and it's within the map, natural heritage. There's a habitat for wood turtle, and then the condition as follows: should avoid a take, and then we have turtle protection plan prior to the start of work. The applicant shall submit the wood turtle protection plan. So we're looking at it as a condition. Said plan shall detail procedures protecting state listed turtles during construction and be prepared and implemented by a qualified division approved wildlife biologist. Division is available for consultation on plan development and can provide contact information for qualified biologists. The division approved plan shall be implemented as written. Any proposed changes to the plan must be submitted to the division for review and written approval prior to implementation of said changes by December 31st of any year in which the work occurs. Qualified biologist shall submit a summary report to the division detailing project status and compliance with the plan, and B, any observation of state listed turtles. And then there's also under for these conditions related to natural heritage is timing restriction for drawdown if the water levels of the Axel Brook will be affected by the construction or bypass flows. The following conditions shall apply: the initiation of any construction related water level drawdown that will affect Axel Brook may occur between September 15th and April 15th. Construction related water lowering that will affect Axel Brook shall be stopped no later than October 15th. Construction related water levels that will affect Axel Brook shall be lowered as stated, but can be raised between September 15th and April 15th. Additionally, all work is subject to the anti-segmentation provisions of MESA. Any changes to proposed project or any additional work beyond that shall be shown on site plans may require additional filing with the division. Project may be subject to further review if no physical work is commenced within 5 years from the date of issuance. So this is all coming through the MESA process, and so these were the things that we were looking at to include in the order of conditions. And then just as far as other kind of comments, 80 feet of permanent BLSF impacts to surface area of top of the new wall. It's thicker than the older one. We'll waiver. Jan, did we already? We didn't issue any. We didn't vote on any waivers, right? Oops, you're on mute.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I would be fairly confident that we did not. I think
Okay.
because we didn't have a DEP number, we were just going to kind of
Correct.
kick the can down the road and do it all at once.
It's just the way it's written. That's why I'm asking. So,
Yeah.
and the next comment is awaiting DEP number. And then we go into kind of this special conditions, and we don't have a lot. It's prior to commencement of work. Applicant to provide stamp plan for the retaining wall. understand that, is it a modular block wall?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just, again,
And I think
you just-
I couldn't put my finger on where it was, but in one of the things from Natural Heritage, I think they were talking about just having the site visits as long as you were below the water line. So I think once we get 2 blocks down and we're above the water line with that section of wall, I mean, it's going to go up really fast, you know, so we're really
Yep.
not terribly worried about it. But
Yeah.
and the site visit from Oxbow is not financially crushing, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I had followed up with Jan with the 80 square feet was the surface area of the blocks, basically where the original block is, I mean, the original wall was like 4 inches thick, and now we're talking about being 2 feet thick for, you know, 40 feet or, you know, whatever
Right.
the
It's
the
it's
length
that
was.
footprint of the extra width or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So there was that. You know, we do have, you know, 3 minutes to 5. We had the DEP number, and then the conditions from Natural Heritage seemed like they all had to be placed before construction. So my thought was, well, maybe if we can scooch this along and make those conditions that we don't have yet from Oxbow, you know, part of the approval to say, yeah, based on whatever Oxbow says, you know, we're gonna close the hearing. That was kind of my hope. You know,
Okay.
if you guys aren't, I mean, recognizing how late the letter came, but
Yeah, we
you
don't
got the
usually
number?
do it. I understand, and again, we don't control on the timing of when we get them, so it's unfortunate on the timing. So let me just go to the other commissioners and see if they have anything additional to um, additional comments, additional potential conditions. Travis, anything on this?
I did go out to the site today. There was water flowing. So are you extending the length of the concrete wall in addition to the thickness
No, it'll
from
just
what's
be
there now?
the face of the wall will basically be where it is now. It's just it'll fall back in those 2 first panels that are kind of crumbling and, you know, like slouching their way into the water. Those will come out.
It looks like
The
a concrete
others,
slab has slid into the brook. That's what it
Right.
looked like to
yeah,
me.
they just
Yeah.
you kind of
Okay,
like
but it's going to be extended. The length of it won't change.
correct.
And then the opening, there's like a driveway that goes over the waterway. That's not being touched at all. It's just those retaining walls, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the back access road to the Worcester Street well, and that won't be changed. And as far as we won't be changing the flow, we're just gonna, you know, block off one of the barrel. They're 2 24-inch pipes. We'll just close one and redirect the water, but the water will still be allowed to flow through the northern side of the culvert, which I've been told is the turtle side. You know, the retaining wall side is not the turtle side, but that's for Steve at Oxbow to figure out. So, but yes, the wall will stay the same length, no extension.
Sandy, no other comments. I'm not thrilled about the conditional approval though, unless that's
Yeah.
something that the commission typically does, but I don't think it is based
It's
on
not.
my time here.
Yeah,
don't-
it's not
yeah.
typical, especially when we just didn't have the opportunity to
And-
see that.
Yeah, and we need approval from the state for the actual turtle plan and
Well, that's
Right.
that's where this request is coming, is that
yeah.
you know, to get that conditions in and then have it submitted. So we're not going to have we probably will not have the approval of that turtle plan prior to issuing the order of conditions. It's a condition that it gets
Okay.
done. So that's not going to change. So
Okay.
um
All right. Nothing else for me.
okay, Jonathan, anything?
I echo the concern that Travis just made, but it sounds like it's not something that we're typically gonna pursue, so,
Yeah.
nothing else.
Okay. And then I'll just open this up for anyone that has any open up to the public or anyone that's attending online. If you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand by hitting the raise hand icon at the bottom of the page. Okay, all right. Jan, did I miss anything?
Nope, got it all.
Okay. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we don't, yeah, I realize DEP sent it really late. I understand what you're requesting, but we don't typically do that, especially when we get things last minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I've worked with
unfortunate.
a lot of commissions and some are more okay with it than others, and every commission has the way they do things, so
Right.
it's totally fine, totally
Yep.
fine.
Yeah,
Is
it's just kind of, yes, and everyone does, and everyone has different things, and I'm sure there's things that we do that other commissioners would not do, and this is just happens to be just because we get so much information submitted at the last moment, it makes it really
Yeah, yeah,
difficult on staff, and we miss things. And this
yeah,
one,
yeah,
unfortunately, is just coming from the state. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, no, it's not, like I said, it's absolutely fine. I was just kind of hoping, but especially since there's only one meeting in August, but hopefully we'll come back to August and be able to close it out and get the work done down there. So,
yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to close it out. I mean, yeah,
yeah, okay. I would like to request the continuance of this hearing until August 16th. That's your next
13th,
meeting.
August
13th.
August 13th. Okay,
Yeah,
appreciate that.
my mother's birthday.
There you go. A good omen.
Yeah.
Jan, anyone from the public?
Nothing from the public.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue the public hearing until August 13th?
I'll move to continue the hearing to August 13th.
All right.
Second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The hearing is continued to August 13th. Right.
Do you, are these other emails on here? Okay, you'll just see these tomorrow. Do you need me to forward this, straight to Jan or,
Yeah, I'll leave that up to you, but Jan will check for him, and
okay.
if
Yeah,
not,
if you don't get
reach
it
out
when
to
you check tomorrow, Jan, just let me know and I'll forward it along.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I was foaming at the mouth about the dam question. I'm like,
I just don't know
It's like
enough about him,
it's
so I
like my
appreciate the
thing. I
input.
can't wait to talk,
Well, that was very helpful, so thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's interesting. We've done a lot of those projects where you're taking trees out, and a lot in Charlton, and there's just a lot of factors that go in, but
Yeah, I know enough to know I don't know it, so I don't make decisions on those things I don't know. So, all right.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Y'all have a good night. Thanks.
Good night. All right. So, Jan, the only one that we have left is 12 Centennial Drive.
Correct.
And are the applicants online yet?
Yes.
They are. Okay. If they are, then I will open up that. And I think that's the last public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, an application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a warehouse at 12 Centennial Drive, 36R Nelson Street, and 83 Westboro Road, 105 and 105 Rare Westboro Road. And who's here to present an update on this?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates, here presenting the applicant for the notice of intent that was filed. With me this evening is also John Perry from Langen, and the applicant Jonathan Scott from Prologis is listening in as well. We don't want to take up too much of the commission's time tonight. As I'm sure you're aware, we haven't submitted any revised information.
Okay.
Right now, we're working through some comments that we received from DEP. We're working through some comments we received from this commission at the last public hearing. But we would like to provide a brief update if we can on what we've done so far and what we intend to respond to as far as the DEP comments go, and then talk a little bit about some of the commission's comments, if that's okay.
You have the floor.
Great, thanks. We're gonna pull up our slideshow here. We do have a file number, which is good news. And not surprisingly, with a project of this size, we did receive some comments from Mass DEP. Nothing out of the ordinary. If we can go to the next slide. One of the main comments that DEP had was, as I'm sure you know, we did a ton of test pits out here. But once you get into the nitty gritty and start designing these things, and they land in areas, some of which are outside of the areas that you tested in. So we do have to do some additional testing. That work has been scheduled and it is in the works. So we intend to get that additional test pit information. You may recall at the last meeting, we talked about the L series ILSF, the bylaw protected resource area that we're proposing to fill. DEP is commenting on the L series, even though we tried to make it clear in our application that it wasn't a state jurisdictional resource area. But in DEP's defense, we did state that it was not a state jurisdictional resource area. We did provide some numbers, but we didn't actually submit the calculations to support those numbers. So they asked us to do so, and we plan to comply. But I think what they'll realize once they see those calculations is that it is just a bylaw jurisdictional resource area. And then there were just a few other, formal responses, miscellaneous clarifications that we intend to get them more information on. They asked about whether or not biological assessments are needed to certify the potential vernal pools. We did gather biological evidence, so if in fact we do end up certifying these pools, we will have that data. We did share that with the peer review consultant Arthur Allen from Ecotech as well. They commented on some of the slopes. They seemed to be steep. They had some concern with stabilization and possibly the need for additional erosion controls. Some of the slopes are steep, but they really don't exceed 3-to-1, which can clearly be vegetated very easily. We talked a little bit about those seed mixes that we intend to use at the last hearing. We do have some slopes that are steeper than 3-to-1, but that's just the cut rock slope behind the building. So that's not going to move. So we'll get information to DEP on that. They did have a really good comment, and I think it was this commission that said the same thing at the last hearing, that perhaps coordinating with the town of Shrewsbury, if in fact orders of conditions are issued in both towns, just so there's some uniformity between the two, and we're not duplicating efforts, and we're all trying to do the same thing here, which is ultimately protect the resource areas at the end of the day. Next slide, please. Want me to take this one, John, or did you plan to talk to this one?
Why don't you start and I can
Sure.
chime in if needed.
Sure. So this is a zoomed in section of the site plan. It's the portion of the parking lot that dips down in that triangular fashion where the L series bylaw land subject to flooding is located. And that's shown in the center in green, labeled existing depression. We explained our goal to replicate that resource area and how we came to that idea. It was during the meetings that we had with both towns. We talked about the need for replication and the idea of proposing that replication area in an area that was going to be cleared for the project was kicked around, and we were originally going to place it where you see that green amoeba on the right of the plan, adjacent to the A series BVW, and that would be an area that we could create adequate hydrology. There's a slope wetland there now. We could easily tap into that hydrology to create a wetland. That would be more consistent with the typical wetland replication scenario that you'd see with a bordering vegetated wetland or something that was state jurisdictional. We could design that in accordance with the inland wetland replication guidance document. But that would result in some additional clearing, a little closer to the resource area. We could probably still stay outside the no disturb zone. But we'd still very much like to put it in that stormwater management area that you see on the left. We think we could successfully do that. But we did want to show the commission that we do have an option, because we got the feeling at the last hearing that some of the commission members were kind of scratching their head about that location. So we can go the route of more of a traditional type of replication area. And we're hoping to talk that through a little bit with the commission tonight. But that's what this slide is intended to depict. Next slide. I'll turn it over to John.
Yep. So again, John Perry, with Langen, site civil engineers for the project, and along with, a few DEP comments, we also got some questions from this commission last time we met in June, and we want to run through our proposed procedures to answer those questions and what we will be submitting, just in case you have any further comments before we formalize that. And I would like to mention too that we did receive a peer review letter from Graves Engineering through the planning board. So I don't know if the commission, if the planning board shared that with the commission or not, but we do have that. And again, I think that they're fairly minor, comments. They did confirm that we're meeting all the stormwater standards required, with just some clarification and some minor I'd call them crossing T's and dotting I's, if you will. So we do plan to formally respond to that as well. So I guess the first thing that we, I wanted to address, and we heard last time, if you can go to the next slide, please, was that we were asked to look at additional low impact development design techniques, and we've done that, and we wanted to present this before we again just went ahead and redesigned something, so we could maybe have a little bit of a conversation about it and get your feedback. And what we're showing here is this is the overall drainage plan that I think we had up on the screen last time. That shows the light blue infiltration basins, and we've added to this, since then. It also shows the purple bioretention area on the plan right that we had originally. We're not quite highlighting the detention basins because in underground systems, underground detention, because we're not really considering those LID, but what this does show is that we've added some areas, and the first one I'll call out is the staying on the bioretention areas here, in the kind of purple or maroon, highlighting and focusing really on the employee parking lot, which is where we thought we could get the most additional LID techniques to work here, around the trucking area in the warehouse. It's a little more challenging just based on the nature of that operations there, but within the employee parking lot there are definitely some options. So as you can see, in those maroon areas there, we found a few of the larger landscape islands where the parking lot is graded towards them, so they're at low points. We could convert those from traditional raised islands into bioretention areas, again in the orange, using some pervious asphalt there as well. And on the next slide, don't change the slide yet, but on the next slide I'll have you zoom in on this so we can look at this a little bit further. In the pink circles there, we're showing those are next to the truck wash station, and we will be proposing a rainwater harvesting tank, so we can use runoff from the roof, the clean roof runoff, into a tank and a recirculation vault to supplement public water supply at the truck wash. And also in the blue strips that you see, it's the easiest one to point out is probably along the top of the page, that long blue strip, where that's an inspection strip behind the trailer parking. So typically that would be asphalt, but in this case, we're proposing a gravel surface to promote, infiltration and reduce impervious areas. In the green areas that we're highlighting, those are areas where, typically they'd be paved, like snow storage areas. They need to be stable so that vehicles can drive on them without making ruts and getting stuck. But typically they'd be paved, but we're choosing to use a permeable and vegetated stabilized grass surface. So if you go to the next slide, you'll be able to see the employee parking lot a little bit more closely. Yeah, so I again wanted to focus on these here. In the orange, we're using porous asphalt. So we picked locations where the site was graded towards those areas. Obviously, using pervious asphalt and like a high point doesn't do you a whole lot of good, because you want the water to pitch towards it so that you can use it to promote infiltration. So along that top row of parking where we have our accessible parking, and as well as the emergency access road there, we propose to use pervious asphalt. And then along the left side of the employee parking lot, it's a slightly different drainage pattern where it more sheet flows from essentially north to south, more kind of uniformly. There's not as many gutters or valleys in the grading. So that's why we're proposing those 3 strips, so we can capture the sheet flow in the pervious asphalt. And one more thing here I wanted to point out was in blue there, we will be including some electric vehicle ready parking spaces as well. So next slide, please. Okay, just a few images here. I know a lot of the commission members are probably familiar with the LID techniques that I just mentioned, but just to give you all some nice images here, and anyone that might be watching some more visual on what I was talking about. So the vast majority of the stormwater on site is the upper left corner there, the infiltration basin. So it's open, it's surface, it's naturalized with natural native vegetation. Just next to that, the bioretention areas, or rain garden pockets, as some people like to call them. Again, naturalized, vegetated. The porous asphalt to the right there, as you can see in that image, there's the kind of the shiny, more standard asphalt on the left, where water obviously just kind of runs over the surface. And on the right-hand side is the porous asphalt, showing that the runoff perks through, infiltrates right into the ground. And on the bottom left here is an example of what I was mentioning with that blue strip, where traditionally it's asphalt, right? So it's more impervious area, but in this case we are using a pervious surface. The middle photo on the bottom just shows a schematic of the truck wash station to show how the rainwater harvesting works. And then on the bottom right is just stabilized grass, snow areas. So next slide, please. Okay, this is the maintenance area, which we spent some time presenting last meeting. And again, there's the maintenance building, the wash tunnel, and the fueling area here as well. And we have a very robust stormwater system where we have the dual wall fuel tank, the concrete curb around the fueling area, hooded catch basins, and then that flows into an oil water separator, as we're calling out there, which then flows into our proprietary water quality unit. And the thing that we've added is a shutoff valve. So just downstream of the water quality unit, we'll be installing a shutoff valve, just in case. It's kind of the last line of defense here. If there was some type of spill and it somehow made it through all those first lines of defense, there'd be a person that is trained in operation and maintenance of this area specifically that could shut that off. Next slide, please. So this is an area, a plan showing the snow storage areas. I believe last time we talked more in high level terms about the plan for snow storage. So we do have multiple locations strategically located throughout the site so that, you know, we aren't just, you know, trucking or pushing snow from one far corner of the site to another. So to the extent we can, we've located dedicated snow storage areas. All of those are graded back towards the parking lot or the where the drainage system is. And we ran some calculations on these areas and came up with that we'd have about 15,000 yards of snow, which is a pretty good amount. And over the area of the paved surface, that would be about 2.5 inches of snow, which is fairly typical. Next slide, please. Okay, so there was a question about basin access, and which somewhat was combined with a comment about the gravel road that comes off of Parmenter Road, which is kind of to the bottom left area of the plan here. There are a couple of culverts that extend underneath the gravel the gravel access path. And there was a comment that if we intended to use that for access to the site for basin maintenance, that we should look at possibly upgrading those or replacing those. And we've looked at basin access in more practical terms as well. And it's always better to be able to access it from the site anyhow. So we did grade in a basin access pathway from the site area, from the truck staging area to the basin, so we can access all of those, so that someone on site, you know, could come in, they could check in with security, or if it's a, you know, get a vehicle down there a little more easily. It's a little more it's closer to the point of maintenance. Next slide, please. And those were the main points we wanted to present. And again, as Greg mentioned before, we did want to have a bit of a conversation about the L-series wetland and get your thoughts on anything else that we may have discussed here.
Sure, just a couple of a couple of quick questions. First thing, as far as this presentation, I'm guessing this is Jan's operating it, so she has a copy of it, just making sure of that. If you could go back to the slide with the images on it for green infrastructure. That one right there. So I got just a question. So you're showing on the porous pavement that the parking spaces are what's porous, and the maneuvering aisle is non-porous. So I'm curious, in the employee parking, why aren't you doing this approach that you're showing in this photo, where the you know, where the actual parking stalls are all porous pavement and the maneuvering aisles aren't? That's traditionally done because of the amount of tire and turning and sediment within the drive aisles, and the tending the porous, you know, as far as porous within the parking spaces, you know, they have cars pull in and stay there. And I'm just curious why you're not doing that approach that you're showing in this photo on the plans.
If you could go back to that zoomed in plan of that, yeah, exactly. So we are doing that in the more northern portion of the parking lot there. So we are going to have that strip along the parking
All right.
there. So that's the, yep. So everything kind of grades that way. There is another valley somewhere within there, but a good
but if
portion of that lot does grade towards those parking spaces.
But if that area is, you know, graded towards that orange, if you had all the parking spaces as a porous pavement system, you'd be decentralizing the infiltration location, which is a much more green infrastructure approach, is to, you know, have the water go into the ground where it falls, as opposed to collecting it in a relatively small percentage of the overall imperviousness. So I'm just, again, because you showed that photo, why aren't you using that throughout the whole parking lot?
Well, there's a few of the rows of parking that are actually at high points, so we wouldn't want to. Typically, I don't like to do that because I think you get more bang for your buck because porous asphalt is a little more expensive. So you can have the pavement kind of flow over the drive aisles and towards the asphalt. So this was, I guess, what we thought was an efficient use of space and efficient use of what we already had graded and worked into the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting any changes to grading. I'm just suggesting that this is a very economic way of doing something, and you're concentrating the recharge area as opposed to decentralizing the water, which is a much more effective green infrastructure, low impact design approach. And it's a very large parking lot. So I'm just curious why you're not trying to decentralize that instead of concentrating all that runoff in one location.
Yeah, I hear you. It sounds like you're asking us to look at the possibility of including more of the
Correct.
impervious asphalt, and we can look at that.
Yeah. Okay. That's that one. And the only other one, as far as, and again, you were showing the areas snow storage, which I'm glad you're showing that. And then you said you did a calculation when you said 2.5 inches of snow. That's a pretty low amount of snowfall in this area. So, to have 4 to 6 inches is not uncommon. Not saying that you have to do that, but it's just like you need to think about areas that you can store snow storage. In fact, that if you have to eliminate parking spaces and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, our concern from conservation is really that nothing gets put within any of the wetlands area or within any of the 100-foot buffers. Some of the snow storage issues are more of a planning board thing. But again, it's just kind of 2.5 inches isn't a whole lot. I wouldn't be designing it for 12 inches, but there's got to be a happy medium there.
Yeah, so I agree. And that's 2.5 inches of snow that's not packed down. So when you put it in a pile, you can pack it, you can fit more there. And that's just
Right.
what would be unencumbered space. Beyond that, say it's 4, 5, 6 inches of snow beyond what they can fit in those dedicated locations, then obviously there's plenty of, space on site there. It would be a tenant, operational decision to, okay, can
Right.
we, take a couple of trailer parking spaces or something like that and use it.
And again, it's less of a conservation commission issue and more of how it impacts us is location and proximity to wetlands and also stormwater management, just because where that's draining to and so forth, and whether or not you're going to be treating the surfaces with salt. Pretty straightforward, especially if you're discharging ultimately to the wetlands. Okay. All right. So let me go around. I appreciate the fact that this that we'll be continuing this because you're still going through, you're still updating plans and so forth. So I appreciate that. We'll kind of get to that. We'll try to ask as many questions as we can. So I'll go around to the commissioners first, and I'll open it up to the public. Jonathan, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I had just kind of two questions, but Jan, could you go back a couple pages to the overall site plan with the LID? Yeah, no, sorry, one more page forward, a couple more, right there. So the snow storage to the plan south in the green with the gravel inspection strip that's directly adjacent kind of to the infiltration. I'm trying to view the grading in there. Is the blue infiltration area below, and that's a retaining wall along that sharp line there?
The blue strip is a gravel inspection strip where you could walk behind the trailer and see like
Correct.
what's in there.
Then you're going to have this grass that's pitched slightly towards the gravel strip, but then going to the plan southwest from that green trapezoid, is that a retaining wall that's dropping off to fall down into that infiltration basin?
There's a wall there, yes.
How high is the wall off the grade?
At that point, so where it ends at where it ends at kind of plan south there, that's where
Mhm.
it's essentially 0 feet, right? And then the grade climbs to within there. I'd have to look at the plan to see how high it is within the snow storage area, plus or minus 15 feet, maybe 20.
Where the snow storage area is going to be higher than the infiltration area.
Above the infiltration basin, correct?
Correct. So, Sandy, I guess it's a question kind of as we've done things in the past. I know snow storage specifically is not, you know, it plays into our pieces here, but for the applicant, what's to keep the snow storage area from flowing into that info? I know you've pitched at that area, but when you've got a 6-inch snowstorm and you're loading that one of the larger areas up with snow, what's to keep that trapezoid to keep that shape, you know, or is that going to flow plan south and plan southwest into that it's immediately adjacent to the infiltration area or adjacent to the infiltration area. So my concern would be if you get a 6-inch snowstorm and then when that stuff all starts to melt off, if the line is blurred, are you putting that snow, what's to keep the landscaping or the maintenance folks that do this work from putting the snow too close or into that infiltration area or too far planned south towards the infiltration area that's the larger pocket planned south? Is there any signage or a fence, or does the wall act as enough of a barrier to stop that? And I'm only concerned because it is an infiltration area.
I think it's a good comment. There is a fence there. But we can look at some signage as well. So there's a fence along the back of the snow storage area.
Okay. Is the chain link 6-inch or 6-foot chain link fence or something like that that designates that?
Correct. I think it's 6 foot. Could be even 8 feet there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My only other second question was kind of what Sandy started on, which was the porous pavement. Is there a specific O&M? I mean, usually there's areas of parking lot. So how this stuff will fill up with sediment, sand, whatever you're using to treat the ice and snow in this parking lot, unless you're just going to plow and snow blow. So is there a way to designate what's porous? Because again, that maintenance contractor that's going to take care of that parking lot, I'm worried after a season or something, or even middle of a season, they're going to sand and salt and whatever the hell out of those porous pavement areas, and then it's not going to absorb the way it should. Is that just a maintenance thing that's going to be addressed in an O&M? It sounds like maybe there might be some tweaking there, but if it was one area, it's easy enough to say south parking is all porous or these strips are all porous, but it's kind of scattered throughout that southeastern parking area. So is there anything to address that in your plans or in your O&M type materials when you're actually maintaining the space?
We were looking at the easy one is the long strip along the kind of top of the parking lot there to put some signage there, because that is, you know, you can point that out to someone pretty easily. And we were looking at possibly some signage at the top of each of those 3 strips, kind of along the edge, maybe along both edges, to point those out. And it will also be obviously outlined in the O&M plan.
Okay.
Yeah, Jonathan, that's one of the nice thing about porous pavement. You typically don't have to sand or salt it. In fact, you can't sand it. You can't sand it, and you can salt it if it's an ice storm. But the things that's nice about porous pavement is that your de-icing component of your snow maintenance is much less because it is free flowing. And yes, you may have occasional things, but you have a standard O&M plan for porous pavement. It's similar to that of pavement per DEP. It's how many times you sweep it with a vacuum, you know, a sweeper and those type of things. There are the benefits of the porous is that if you do everything in porous, you're going to have a much easier time maintaining it or not having ice on it unless it's a shaded area. Kind of a key component of that is making sure no one sands it, because that will, that will clog it up. So
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at, is that you've got a few areas that are strips. And if you do intend to get, even ice storm or something, and you salt and sand the parking lot, or have a mixture, or you just sand, whatever it is, part of the parking lot, how do you keep that out or whatever? That was the direction of my question.
yeah, and that's a good one because that is a problem. And again, salting
want it
it
to
isn't
clog.
going to make it. Salting is not not typically needed, but if needed, then it's not going to clog anything because it becomes soluble. It's when it's when you sand it, you really
Solids
destroy.
work
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
No, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Travis.
Oh, let me go back to my notes. Would the modified wetland replication area require a liner like the current location of the replication area, the synthetic liner?
I don't think so. The location that we would put it as Plan B is right next to the A Series BVW. It is on a slope, but I think there's a restrictive layer on that slope, which is holding up the water and why we have a BVW there. It's fairly flat. It's a broad swale that comes down the hill. I think we could easily tap into that hydrology.
I think one of my concerns during the last hearing was creating a wetland replication that required a synthetic liner and how that would replace the wetland functions long term. Is the current replication location, am I looking at this right? Is it within the infiltration basin on the left side of the page?
Yes.
So the current plan is to put a wetland within, not a bioretention swale, which presumably would have more native habitat and create like an actual connection to the existing habitat. It would be just a detention basin, a wetland in a detention basin. Is that right?
That's right. We'd create little islands within it so that we could vegetate. We expect it to hold water, every spring and fall, enough that it would support buttonbush. I think we have winterberry buttonbush, and there's one more shrub proposed, 2 different seed mixes. But it would dry up every year, just like the current L Series does. Probably just through
Okay, but that,
evaporation.
yeah, I was probably the commissioner scratching his head
Yeah.
about this last time. I'm still scratching my head.
It's
Yeah, I guess
it's not
it would.
ideal, but
No, it's not.
but we do think it would work, or we wouldn't have proposed it. But like we talked about tonight, we could tell there was a little concern at the last hearing, so we wanted to evaluate a Plan B, and really Plan B was our Plan A that we showed during the IDR meetings, and
I guess I'm trying to envision what this would look like. And Sandy, maybe you can help me out, but it would be mowed turf infiltration basin with a liner in the center of it, soil on top, in the hopes that it would support wetland vegetation. Sandy, is that what you're seeing?
I mean, basically, it's a pool within the infiltration. And in infiltration basins, you probably want to have a decent growth of herbaceous, and then the maintenance is to cut it once a year. You're not going to have you don't typically mow, at least in my opinion, you don't mow an infiltration basin. You just got to make sure that you keep woody plants out of it. So yeah, it would be, you take away the infiltration component in that area of that wetlands, and it's kind of like a seasonal pool that you're creating within it. Kind of doing it adjacent to a wetland seems to make more sense.
I think
So
the conversation really
it-
began, when we described the type of wetland that it was. And, I hate to value wetlands, but this is a spot that you'd walk by today and you wouldn't even know it was a wetland. There's really nothing even growing in it. It's a low spot in the woods. It has hydric soils. It has silt stained leaves. It holds water every spring and fall. When we had this discussion during the IDR meeting, the peer review consultant hadn't seen it yet, but we did describe it. And I think that's when the conversation began. Well, maybe we don't need to cut down more trees to build a small replication area. Maybe we can put it somewhere else in another spot that's already being cleared. And that's really where we ended up where we did. But that spot that we showed today as our plan B, that was our plan A that we showed at the IDR meeting.
But it
Any-
is a wetland. It's not just a depression, it's an official wetland.
Yeah,
Like,
Under
there's
the
no
local
question
bylaw.
there.
it's,
Right,
it is.
okay.
Yeah, and we do, we even have a plan C, which is up near the town line, where we'd be able to have a secondary source of hydrology, which would be the emergency outlet control for one of the detention ponds above the employee parking lot that you see there, just above the orange porous pavement strip that we were talking about to the left of the EV stations. There's a little nook in between that A series wetland and the detention basin that we could place this. In that area, again, it's flat. I don't think we'd have any problem getting adequate hydrology. But as I mentioned, we'd have a secondary source of hydrology below that emergency outlet control structure for that detention pond.
If you zoom into the next sheet there that blows up the parking lot, you can see that a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's that lighter green color to the right of the dark green wetland you see that creeps up to the left. There's a little nook in there that we could propose it.
So it's
But,
kind of tucked in between there's an employee just walkway, right? Pathway in the wetland. That little open space there where the town line goes right through it.
That seems a little bit more applicable.
And this would be more of a traditional wetland that we'd be creating and not just a low point in the woods. It would be more like your typical isolated vegetative wetland.
Those are my concerns. No other questions, Sandy.
Okay. I have one really quick question. You may not have this determined yet. When you talked about doing the snow storage as stabilized grass, which I certainly have no problem with that. Do you have an idea of what system you would be using?
I don't have the exact product in front of me right now, but it would be one of those waffle type plastic,
Okay.
grid type units.
And the only reason I'm asking is I'm more concerned about a happy snowplower ripping all that stuff up. I mean, I've seen that up with just, there's lots of products out there, and there's definitely things appropriate for that. It's just a consideration. It's less on our part. It's more on the owner's part and how often they have to replace that.
That's
So,
a good call. I've seen some that are pretty flimsy and some that are a
Yep.
little bit more of like a rigid
Yeah,
box essentially that you lay down almost like pavers.
yeah, you can you even have grasscrete and those kind of things, which is, which isn't going to get ripped up. Or if it does, the plow's going to get hurt by it. So,
Right.
okay, so at this point, what I do is I'm going to open up to the public, and if people online here have any comments or questions, please raise your hand just to give you an idea. So we have not gotten any new information. The applicant is still going through updating plans, collecting all of the comments from DEP and from the peer reviewer and previous comments from this commission. If you realize we were talking a lot about wetlands and stormwater tonight, that's what the commission is focused on. That's our responsibility. But again, if you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand, and I would encourage anyone to follow up any comments or questions and put it in writing and submit it to the Conservation Commission so we can have it on record. And as Jan watches people online, I guess not to be presumptive, but that you are going to be requiring a continuance to our next hearing. It is the August 13th enough time, or it's up to you on when you'd like to continue it to?
I think we'd like to request a continuance to the 13th, and if for some
Okay.
reason we need to defer again, we will ask that at that time, but we plan to have everything wrapped up and formalized by then.
Okay, understood. Jan, anything from the public?
Nothing from the public.
All right. And then as far as go once around again, if the commissioners had anything else to add, thank you for the presentation. Obviously, you're still working through a lot of the comments and so forth, and we'll see what happens when you submit the next round. So Travis, anything else? Last parting words?
Nope, nothing else.
And Jonathan?
Nope.
And I don't have anything at this time, so if you could just request that continuance, we will do a motion.
Yeah, we'd like to request a continuance to the next hearing, please.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to continue the hearing to August 13th for Centennial Drive.
Do we have a second? Got a motion, a second, roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
I am also a yes. This hearing's been continued to August 13th.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everyone.
All right,
Have a good night.
good night. All right, Jan, what else do we have left here?
I got a few action items left. We can
Okay.
just go down the list, start with 3 Stonegate Circle.
Okay, I need to get onto the right sheet. All right.
Dan, there's a hand raised in the attendees. I don't know if you noticed that.
Let's see, I'm gonna allow to talk. It's Brandon.
Yes, it is. I'm here to represent the Stonegate Circle project, so that's why I'm raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
And all right, I don't think I can put on my video.
Okay, that I can't answer your question. You
You're
should
gonna
be
have to
able
deal. You're gonna have to deal with my ugly professional picture mug, then I guess.
There you go. Let's stand it professional. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
So Jan, kind of a just an update on what's going on with 3 Stonegate Circle. I'm gonna look it up.
Sure. So the certificate of compliance was requested back in 2015, I believe, and was denied due to a lack of information and discrepancies between what was approved and what was constructed. They did not submit an as-built plan at that time. So the current owner is selling now and became aware of this. So there was replication proposed at the back of this lot. And we were looking for proof that the replication took and was at the size we were looking for. So the
Okay.
applicant had a wetland scientist confirm the size and the success of the replication area. The only thing is it looks like it was there was a outstanding item on the original order of conditions stating that a 30-foot natural undisturbed buffer to the wetland area. And that does not appear to have been maintained. The lawn is pretty close to the edge of the BBW. So it looks like the wetland scientists misinterpreted this condition in their letter as the buffer from the replication area. Specifically, which is farther away than the edge of the BBW. The replication is in the back of the lot, and the wetland area extends pretty close towards the back of the house.
Okay.
I have
Do you have excuse me, Jan, do you have a plan for this?
Yep, let me pull it up.
Thank you. Said this was 2015.
Yeah, that it was denied.
Okay, so that we still had a 25-foot no disturb.
This This order of condition was issued in the year 2000, so it was before we had. a
Oh,
25
okay,
foot.
okay, yep, yep. So they came back. Okay, so
Yep.
that's what I was asking, is
Mhm.
what.
So here is the replication area right here.
Yep.
And this is the extent of the BBW, 78 feet from the edge of the replication area, but we are concerned about 30 feet from the edge of the BBW here.
Okay, and that's what was in the order of conditions.
Correct.
And obviously that is now lawn as opposed to, yeah, that would be really close. Go ahead, Brandon, if you have something to add to this.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I agree that the 30 feet thing was originally misinterpreted. But here's the thing is I did some research on this, looking back at the old site plans going back to 2000. And I can share that site plan or a number of site plans that have been created over this period. And the thing is that when the house was built, the replication area was created to mitigate for fill of wetland in the footprint of the house, right? So the garage and part of the driveway and part of the backyard was filled in order to put the house there. And I guess that was something that Grafton allowed back in 2000. And when you look at the approved limit of work, the approved limit of work was only a matter of feet away from the BVW at that time. And when the wetland replication plan was created or updated in 2007, it was very similar. There was 30 feet between the wetland and the edge of the house in 2000. So I have a hard time believing that the Conservation Commission wanted there to be, undisturbed vegetation right up to the edge of the foundation. So I'm having a hard time trying to understand and interpret that condition that's now, 24 years old.
Right.
Can I show the original plan that was marked up?
Did you submit that to Jan?
No, but it's in the record that my client was able to obtain from the Conservation Office.
Okay. I don't think we have that in digital form, Jan.
The most thing I have right now is the subdivision as-built plan.
Yeah, why don't you
Um,
bring that up?
So we're looking at lot 1 down here.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Let me quickly go around the commission and kind of get their gut reaction. I mean, what I'm seeing there is the crosshatch is what was filled, correct?
Yes.
And then the other area of replication is further back. So like,
Correct.
and this is a time when they were doing it truly 1-to-1, and then there's some sort of condition that indicates, that 30 feet of natural vegetation, which based on this subdivision plan would be right at the back of the house. So, Travis, any kind of comments or questions?
So what we're looking at is not the plan associated with the original permit, correct?
This is the
But we
as-built
do
plan.
have that.
Yeah, we have it not in the digital file.
I guess I would just want to double check that the hatched fill is what was part of the original permit,
Right. Yeah,
not
and
just
yeah.
what was built.
No, well, the as-built has to comply with the requirements. Yeah. But I know what you're saying is
Right,
that it'd be
yeah.
good to see that this what we're seeing here matches that.
Yeah.
Jan,
Um,
did you have to take a look at
The
that when
certificate of compliance was denied in 2011.
2016,
2016?
right? And Jan
Do-
replied to an email to my comment on June 20th. It was a very thorough email, kind of giving the history of what happened and why, kind of, you know, explaining how this sausage got made. You know, how we got to 1,400 square feet and you know, what is required now. And there were three main things. The first one was, is the wetland replication area at least 1,400 square feet in SMAR 10.554B? And then there's the third issue of this 30-foot buffer. And I wish I had sharing capabilities because I have the digital plan from the original 2000 subdivision showing the house and where the wetland is and where the approved limit of work is. And I can tell you that there's not 30 feet between the limit of work and the wetland boundary. There's 30 feet between the wetland boundary and the house. But it doesn't make sense to me that the Concom would want there to be forest right up to the edge of the house. That never works. So I'm guessing that you got Zoom bombed once and disabled sharing.
We personally haven't, but I've been on several permitting calls that have. And so we have a policy of not letting people, we don't do sharing for that reason. So,
Okay.
and then, so Jonathan, your kind of take on this?
My concern is what Travis said, is if it was previously denied due to the lack of information and discrepancies and what was approved versus what was instructed, then we probably need to compare that prior to moving forward in
Yeah.
any direction. That's my
So,
take.
right. And so one of the things I just heard, Jan, and you can let me know, is that the homeowner did have a wetland scientist go out and check the replication area, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
So-
that was me.
Oh, okay. All right. So Brandon went out and looked at where the replication area is.
Correct. And I also GPS located the perimeter of the wetland replication area so we could get an exact size. And we came up with a size. It ended up being 1,756 square feet in size.
So this is the original subdivision plan?
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
I
There we
believe so,
go.
yeah.
I'm glad you have that. Thank you. So may I? So in this plan, there's a dash line, and then you can see the hash is the wetland that was filled or
Yep.
approved to be filled. But if you look at that limit of work with the erosion control line, that is not 30 feet away from the wetland line. It's 30 feet from the wetland boundary to the back of the house, not to the limit of work. So this is where what I'm saying about having a hard time understanding where this 30-foot undisturbed buffer comes from. If it's associated with this house, because remember, there's also a second replication area on Fieldstone Court. Or maybe the context was there had to be 30 feet of buffer between the wetland replication area and the upland in the back. I don't know. But it doesn't make sense to me that there has to be a 30-foot buffer between the house and the wetland line, because that's 30 feet exactly, according to the plans.
Right. I understand what you're saying. None of us were on the commission and when this subdivision came in. In fact, a lot of this is hand done, so.
Right, I
So
understand.
if
The
I
only one-
could real quick ask a question. So Sandy, if I'm reading this right, it looks like the lot one, the proposed fill was 900 square feet and the as-built was 1,350 square feet.
Yep.
And if I look at the as-built, it looks like the wetland area that was filled, it looks like the house is bigger in the as-built.
Right.
Than on the plan.
It is,
I'm
but I can
wondering
confirm
if
that
the-
the
is
limit of work
wetlands
hasn't
being-
expanded.
Yeah, the wetlands line is different now than it was.
It-
Um, and that changes. I mean, that's to do this amount of work
I just
around
want
the
to make sure
wetlands.
I was looking at this
Yeah.
right.
So basically we have something that, 24 years old, and the intent was you had to replicate what was being filled. What's in place now kind of meets that criteria, but the problem is this other condition which we don't know where it applies to. And it doesn't make sense it applies here. Obviously, the house that got built is larger than what is shown on this plan, in that it's kind of weird. It's like if you look at the edge of the wetlands and you look at the limit of work or the hay bale line.
Which are one and the same, yeah.
I don't think so. Can you zoom in to the house, Jan, just to so basically you can see the edge of the wetland. It's written on that. And then you have the hay bale line above that, and then you can see the edge of the wetland comes up, does that little area into that lot that's hatched. And then you have what's weird is the hay bale line goes through the wetlands, then stays away from it. And they show a replication area, but they don't show what will be filled. That hatch is what supposedly was filled. It doesn't make sense that they left that little area of wetlands there because that won't survive, which it hasn't. So, and again, to what Travis was saying, that was 900 square feet, and then now it's, was it 1,700 square feet now? Which makes
That's what
sense
actually got built, yeah.
because of that area right where it says wetland doesn't exist anymore.
Right, and Jan in her email, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, Jan, but in your email, you wrote that the approved plan shows that 1,100 square feet of replication area was proposed, but from what I could piece together, that was only 5,000 square feet of disturbance was allowed within the whole subdivision. So a change was made to eliminate disturbance at another area, lots 7 and 8, to allow more disturbance / fill at 3 Stonegate Circle. This is why the as-built plan shows 1,350 square feet of fill and 1,400 square feet of replication, opposed to what was approved before construction commenced, which is 900 square feet of fill and 1,100 square feet of replication. So I'm appreciative of her investigative work on that.
So Jan,
That's correct.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically during construction, there was a change that kind of responds back to like the 500 square feet or so, which would be
Well-
that little tail, that little
Yeah, I
swale
would
thing
say
at the
so,
top.
yeah, because if you go back to the as-built plan, it shows that little finger-like projection on the left side of the hatch as being gone,
Right.
right?
So okay, so that, I mean, I think from a replication standpoint, I think there's enough evidence now. I think the bigger issue is that 30 foot, and is that a general, or can you tell, Jan, was that just a general condition, or was that specific for this lot?
It,
Um,
it, it was a special condition and it was on this DEP file number. And that's about as much as I could tell you.
And this order of condition was issued to this lot specifically, not the entire subdivision.
But it's not, it just simply says 30 feet. It doesn't say a location.
Yeah,
Correct.
the and I'm reading directly from the WPA Form 5, special conditions, 30-foot or more natural undisturbed buffer to the wetland areas. And that's it. That's as far as it goes. And it says, and it also goes on to read, hay bale dike is limit of work. So that makes no sense to me because you get the hay, well, they call it a hay bale dike. It's, you know, it's probably just a hay bale line, which is that the line you see there, the going through the, you know, it's in the back of the house and it goes up and back around. And that is definitely not 30 feet away from the wetland.
Right.
So I don't know what the context of that 30-foot is or was.
So let's talk about where we're at now.
Yeah.
And you know, what can be done and what
Exactly.
information we
And,
need.
and we're listening.
And so as far as Jan, so as far as the replication stuff, that seems to be fairly straightforward based on the as-built and based on Brandon going out and taking and looking at the replication area.
Correct. The replication satisfied.
Right. And again, it's 24 years later and wetlands don't stay the same. It's an approximation. But there was evidence of that back area being excavated out and then the wetlands growing in that location. So the next question is this 30-foot natural area. Jan, can you do me a favor and just bring up the aerial for this area?
Sure.
Jonathan, got something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, while Jan's pulling that up, so I see where the hay bale line is. I get now what you're saying in terms of the swap of, you know, what was wetlands, the finger that goes up and the replication makes sense. It's verified now. But I guess where Jan is going and where you're going is where I'm thinking is the way I'm reading some of the notes from the report is that there's grass now up to 30 feet away from the replication area. Is that how that reads? And that's what we're trying to confirm now? Or is the hay bale line that was there, is that the wooded line now?
That's kind of why I'm asking for the aerial to kind of.
Yeah, I just didn't know. Brandon, is the hay bale line that's there on that plan, is that?
That was the approved limit of work, and based on what I've seen in the field, they line up pretty well with where the edge of the lawn is right now. So I think
The hay
that's
bales.
still pretty consistent. It's just that hay bale line, which is now the edge of the lawn, is not 30 feet away from the wetland boundary, but it was never shown as being 30 feet away from the wetland boundary to begin with. So I'm as confused as you are about it.
So
Correct.
basically just looking at this aerial, you got the
See some
driveway
shrubs
coming
go up to
in.
the back of the house, basically.
Yeah. It doesn't, from just a practicality, we wouldn't require 30 feet to go right up to the building. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And Brandon, when you went out there and you located the current limit of wetlands, is that generally matched up to what the as-built says?
It did. The wetland went a little bit further to the west than shown, because the land goes back up towards the very back west end of the lot. So they had to dig in to the hill right there. So it's very easily identified with the western edges. So we were able to go around that, and we saw it went a little bit further. The replication area went a little bit further west than shown on the plan.
Okay.
Thus, I think the reason why it's, the 1750 instead of the 14.
Yeah.
And I just emailed Jan a digital plan showing a sketch based on the original 2000 approved site plan. showing distances, if it helps at all, if she gets it.
So just curious from the commissioner's standpoint, I think we're all getting that there were some inconsistencies and something doesn't make sense. I think key is no net loss of wetlands. But as far as the natural, I mean, nowadays we have the 25 foot and we are pretty strict on requiring that, but even a 25-foot buffer would go right up to the house. So,
Correct. Is there any other way that we can somehow mitigate for that in order to move things along? Because even if you go 25 feet, you're gonna have 5 feet between the house and the edge of the forest. And you know what's gonna happen is in 10 years, there's gonna be a tree there that somebody's gonna be afraid is gonna fall on the house.
I'm less worried about that and just having proper access around a house.
Right,
I
there
mean,
you
that's,
go.
yeah. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, but 5 feet's not enough. So,
Okay.
as far as, obviously we're reviewing something that's 24 years old. And we did something in 2015 based on the information we had then, because we were missing a lot of the information around the wetlands, which was a key part of that. That was denied. And then now we're coming back and we have more information, but we have this gap here of that 30 feet. And then the question is is there a compromise or is there something that we should be looking at or requiring? I'm not sure. So again, looking at the commissioners, if they have any kind of suggestions, Travis or Jonathan.
So Ecotech did a peer review in 2011, and then the COC was denied in 2016 for unknown reasons, and now we're back in 2024. I guess if Jan and Leah are confident that the as-built plan that was submitted meets the wetland requirements, I mean, can we require some sort of fencing or no disturb boundary to establish a new line so that more clearing doesn't occur?
We
I-
are not opposed to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I was
that's,
kind of
yeah.
directing that at Sandy and
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's similar to what I was thinking. Oh, Jonathan, if you've got.
It makes sense. Where's the grass? Where's that line gonna be? At the edge of the grass that's currently behind the house that's already been expanded? Or is it gonna
Well-
be, are they gonna cut down trees and push into the current wood line to then establish that line, put up a fence or put up signs? Like, what's the intent there? Cause I'm not sure how, this is we're at a few thousand feet here looking down at some
Yeah.
canopy that's creeping towards the back of the house, but does the canopy cover trees that allows, do you have 30 feet of space behind that house, or do you have 20, or do you have 10, or do you have 5, or do you have none? I think
Well, so
that's
to
the
me,
question.
yeah. So I think that's real.
How
I
much
think,
grass?
right. And I think that's exactly what we need to kind of figure out. And from my perspective, to what Travis was saying is to request to have, that the signage put in there so we can establish it. We can document it on a plan, put it in the file so this doesn't come up again.
Mhm.
And then the other part of it is to, um, think what's reasonable and to get kind of a good image to figure out, where the wetlands are compared to what, because again, you're looking at a lot of canopy there. So that would
But
be
per
the
the
other
plan,
item.
doesn't the wetland come up to where that hay bale line was, basically? Is that how I read that plan correctly? The wetlands
I would
previous that
I
line?
would go to the as-built plan
Okay.
just because there was a change in the amount of
But
wetlands
is the
filled.
replication the only wetland, or was the wetland all the way up to the line? Because again, we had that, it snaked up, they took a chunk of it to put the driveway
Right.
and the house in.
Right.
So where it says wetlands past the replication, I would assume that whole area up to where the tree line was behind the house is wetlands, right?
Correct.
So per the plan, it would be up against the house. So we're just trying to find the happy medium to allow access to the back of the house, put
Correct.
some signage in. So it'd be helpful to have an understanding of what's behind that house now and where the line is, and I guess
You can,
to
if you go to
to
like
have
2019 and 2006, you can see some aerials without tree canopy.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking to see if there's alternatives
Like-
on, yeah.
It looks like it's pretty close. Like to the house is 30 feet.
There you go. That's
20
kind
feet.
of, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So the prior owner has dealt with this being wooded or whatever, a mixture of wooded and some grass back there for years. And the house is currently trying to be sold. That's the intent right now?
Yeah,
That's why
that's
this
how
needs to
this
be
all
cleared
came up.
Okay.
I mean, I think, you know, to your point, Travis, is like something like this could kind of establish where we put the signs.
Yeah.
Looks like they've got structures or something out there in the backyard, so.
Yeah. Who knows? Could be swing sets. I don't know.
Right.
Or sheds or something.
Let's see here. Well, the thing is, I took pictures when I was out there, but I can't share them.
Yeah.
It's lawn, you know, pretty much straight across the back.
So one thing that would be helpful, Brandon, is if you've got, you know, a handheld, you know, GPS, and that's how you located the wetlands, correct?
Correct.
And if you went out and hopefully having the same thing is to locate the yard area and then figure out, is it 2 feet away from the wetlands? Is it 5 feet? And then give us that information so we can basically, you know, say, okay, we just want you to put signs here, and then we'll be able to sign off on this. And what's the schedule on the house being sold? I'm sure it's already been
Friday,
this Friday.
this Friday. So it would be wonderful if we could put up signs or something like that to satisfy the commission.
Okay. So to the commissioners, is it something that we could have Jan go out and just, you know, observe that the signs are up? And again, Brent, I don't know if how much you've done in Grafton. We have a standard 4x4 inch sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's what Sunshine sign it has them in
Who-
stock.
Sun sign?
Sunshine.
We
The
can't
sun's-
recommend a specific sign shop, but any sign shop in Grafton has
Can
worked
make
with,
them-
has done them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand that perfectly. I usually work with a company called Permaline in Brockton that does signage, but whatever, you know, signage you need.
Yeah, so we have a standard 4x4, and if it could get put in there, let me check with the commissioners if they feel that's something that is acceptable to them. So, Jonathan.
So what we're saying is if they were to put in no disturb signage along the existing tree line, how would that process move if they're trying to close everything out for Friday?
Because we would
to approve the COC potentially
correct.
to incorporate the signage that's yet to be installed, and
So we make it a condition, and it's an administrative review of it.
okay. It sounds reasonable. I'm just wondering over the years how far that has crept. Essentially, the prior owner crept into the wetlands and broke the order of conditions that was previously there or whatever, right?
So I think there's a couple things going on, and the problem is lack of information. And the couple things is the fact that 30 feet doesn't make sense, and there was some sort of intention there, but we don't know what it is. There's not enough, Jan, like, tell me if I'm wrong. It sounds like there's just not enough information to say
Correct.
that right, so where the intention of that 30 feet is. You have, a plan, an as-built plan that shows whatever, 25, 30 feet behind the house, behind a rectangle. And, it's just the as-built has a more complete house on it, right, Jan?
Yes.
So you have this as-built that shows an area behind there. And then the question is, to your point, Jonathan, has it crept? That I don't know how we're going to do to establish that. And maybe what we establish is that it can't creep anymore. And that we have not only the signs put in, but we have a sketch done so that we can have distances from the house to the signs.
Right, because when the new owner moves in, you know. What's, does that line move?
Right, and that's
whether
why,
they have
and,
plans for that
Right.
line, you know?
right, and that's
So
why,
again, do we need a split rail fence that's more egregious, that's a firm line, not a 4x4 sign, because we've used split rail fence in the past, or boulders, or things that are more, where I feel like I get that it's an old condition. I'm just
right,
trying to justify the condition. Didn't make sense at the time, but what went through the process, and the house was built, and then
right,
it was trampled over. So I get
right.
that
And
it's old and we're trying to clean it up. So
yeah, and the fact that we didn't have the 25-foot buffer at that point, or the 25-foot no disturb. But there is a condition. The problem is we don't know how it was applied and what the intention was.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with the context of that 30-foot.
I mean, it applies someplace. I just don't know where.
Right.
Travis, any kind of comments on this?
I guess this approach is fine. Some sort of a barrier. I don't know where that's going to be. I definitely have concerns like doing a conditional order of conditions, because what holds the applicant to actually getting it done, and then we'll be back here in 6 years when the next person wants to sell.
Well,
That's my bigger concern.
yeah, and it's a good one. And the way it is that, that you don't release the approval until whatever is put out there is there. Until we get a sketch showing the
Okay,
distances and
because
stuff.
somehow the house was sold like in
Happens all the
2015
time.
or so. So it's
Happens all the time.
slipped through the cracks. So I guess I don't want that to happen again.
And I think from my perspective, the key thing is getting a distance from the house to whatever
Yeah.
line is established. So there's a sketch in the file, and we can put a note on it. It says, based on this, and we'll have better minutes and everything. Based on this, the commission, looked at the available information and the intent of what was being done, and to resolve the kind of confusion over exactly what that limit of work is and the limit of disturbance, is that this is what it's being set at, and therefore that's what's cleaning up the certificate of compliance. And then we
Could
have actual distances.
could one of the commission members, and I'd volunteer to go out there with Jan tomorrow just to see what the condition is, or whatever, if that's permissible, and then measure it from the house to the edge. Or
I mean,
whatever, then it would.
that would be
correct
helpful.
the
And then what we would do is to the key thing is what happens with the vote. And again, it's always unfortunate that these things come in the last minute. Someone's trying to close, and that creates a problem. And obviously, that's what's here. We didn't really create this situation, but we're the one that's it's up to us if we want to just set it up so that it can be administratively reviewed. And if Jan and Jonathan, you go out there and you say, yeah, it's 32 feet, that's where, the signs, or if you want to put split rail fence, has to be installed. The bottom line is that we now have a distance. For anything in the future, it's established. But to Travis's point, how's something going to be put in there? And
This sign's
between,
probably the only viable option between now and
correct.
Friday.
Yep.
A split rail fence, you need to.
Yeah,
have a
that's
bunch
not
of
gonna
split rail.
happen in 3 days.
Well, through the chair, we're willing to purchase the signs and get them installed, tomorrow for inspection if need be, if allowed, in
Yep.
order to close this out. So, the backyard is fairly narrow, and there's a very clear wood/brush line that we could put the signs at whatever distance apart you require,
It's
so
the-
that the new owner will know what their limits are, so there will be no lawn creep.
So Jan, it's every 25 feet? Is that what it is?
Every 20 feet for the no disturb
Every 20
signs.
feet. Yeah, so it's every 20 feet across the back.
Which is fine.
So, so let me kind of suggest a path forward. And again, no one should feel like they have to do this. I don't see at this point in time, we're not going to grab 30 feet back and make him naturalize it. At least that's my opinion. That doesn't seem reasonable, I guess would be it. And it also doesn't really, from a pure protection of the wetland, I don't see how that protects that wetlands that much. But what we can do is, do approve the order of condition based on the condition that signs are installed and that that an admin person and Jonathan, if you can go out there as a representative for the commission, go out there and check it and just basically measure it to say, here's what it is, here's the actual numbers, so that we could put it on a sketch so that it's in the file, so that we all have established what that limit of lawn area is. And then we could, conditionally approve it and not release it until that's been inspected. So that's the only way I could see it happening before Friday.
That sounds great.
You're not the
Um,
one that needs to answer that, so.
Just my 2 cents, Sandy, the conditional improvements, or the conditional approval tends to be messy, so if we are gonna go this way, we need to put a date on it. With the condition also that if we don't receive proof by that date, it's an automatic denial, because if we have to issue something within 20 days, whether it's the
Okay.
approval or the denial.
Right, I mean, we could just make it 2 weeks out, because it's gonna,
Yep.
that means something's gonna get, the closing's not gonna happen.
That's what I was
So.
gonna recommend, was 14 days, so that would be July 30th.
Okay, that's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, that actually is a good thing, because then it becomes null and void. Yeah.
And
So,
then also, change the ongoing condition to this to disturbance shall not occur any closer to the BVW than it is currently, or what the sketch will show.
I think that, yes. I would agree with those items. That makes it a little bit clearer. Folks' reaction to those recommendations by Jan?
So Jan would go out to make sure that the signs are in, they're secure, they're not just like on a wooden stake tacked against a tree, and they're approximately 20 feet. Jan, can you do that this week? Is that reasonable for you
I
if
can-
Leah's out?
I can do it this week, yeah.
And if Jonathan can get out there, I can't go tomorrow. But Jonathan, feel free to send me an email if you get in a pinch. I might be able to go
Okay.
Thursday.
And we don't
can
want to
head out there.
have a quorum out there either.
Right. Yeah. It'd just be one of us.
It's just a representative, just to
Well, we
confirm.
could have 2, right? That's not a quorum.
Correct. That is correct.
One should be fine. I'm just being a smart ass, Sandy.
I can
Yep.
head out there tomorrow, depending on Jan, we can connect, if
Sure.
you
Yeah.
wanna go out there as well.
Sure.
If the
I guess
signs
my
are in.
only final, so to verify that the signs are in tomorrow or to take some measurements or both?
For both, both.
Okay.
Just tape it in,
So-
closest foot.
We do have
So we're
someone
saying-
who's raised their hand.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Jason, promoting you to speak.
And there we are. Hi, I'm Jason Pincombe. I'm the realtor selling this house. I have been hired by Michael Fields and Jennifer Heaton Fields, who are the owners of this home. And the sellers, and this has been delayed, of course, because the attorneys did discover that unfortunately the builder who went bankrupt, and then the last time when my clients bought it, the seller's attorney said that she would take this on, and unfortunately, when it got denied, when she filed the application, no further work was done, and sure enough, here we are in the midst of a sale, and I believe the buyers are on here. At least one of my sellers is on here. And we really need this to close on Friday. Otherwise, unfortunately, the buyer does not have to extend any further, and putting a house back on the market is never good. So what I'm asking is, I don't know what time any sign company opens out there. However, I will be at the first sign company first thing in the morning. As soon as they open, I will personally install the signs that they say it's 4x4, you said 20 feet apart. I want to make sure I understand the area. You want it right up against wherever the brush is, all the way across the back of the house, and whatever time you're going there. If those signs are in fact installed and you guys do that sketch, are we able to get at least a written email saying, yep, it's all good, we're approving it, and therefore we can still close on Friday?
So we can certainly provide you with what we're doing now as a conditional approval. And we can certainly confirm that with, after the inspection's done, with an email. And then I'm not gonna put it on Jan to do all the paperwork within 2 days. But
I
you
would
can have, yeah, you can have that. And again, I mean, we understand we don't create these issues. However, we don't try to be, we try to provide, what's needed if it's reasonable. There's a lot of history on this particular site. There's other lots in the site that had similar type of things. And trust me when I say some of the other things have really impacted sales to the point of, yeah, this one here is less. This is, first and foremost, we need to protect the wetlands. And so what we're doing is not going to threaten the wetlands any more than what's been there for 24 years. So we need to stick with what we're responsible for. And in this case here, it's a lot of paperwork that we need to deal with and stuff. So we're trying to come up with a plan that can be done.
I appreciate that. Yep. I don't know what time Jan intends to be there tomorrow. If she has an idea of that, I will just make sure the signs are installed before then, because I have an 11 a.m. appointment, so they will be in the morning. They will be installed by me.
Yeah. And then I think communication's the other thing. So
And my quick question, just I want to make sure I understand, 20 feet apart, is it just up against wherever the lawn stops? Is that where you want them?
So it has to do where the wetlands are. So Jan, if you just bring up that plan.
This is the most recent.
Right. Yeah. So basically what you're looking at is that the green is kind of the wetlands line. And so really what we're looking for is those signs to go across where that brush slash tree line is. And it should go to the from the approximately the property line on the left hand side to past the house corner on the right side. Because once it begins to take that turn, so once it begins to take that turn, it begins to go away from the wetlands. So we're less worried about where it says lot 1. Doesn't need to extend all the way out there. You can see where the wetlands line is. It really just needs to extend to the corner of the house, and that's about it. Does the other commissioners generally agree with the placement of that?
Yeah,
Sounds-
but the signs are installed on what, Jan? a metal T-post in this situation?
Yep, the signs need to be all weatherproof and they need to be installed on permanent metal signs,
Okay.
or it can
I
be
just wanna make-
on the trees.
It can be on the trees.
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's
If trees
clear.
are the line, right? I
Right.
mean, that we don't know. So
So you want them on a metal post? I mean, will the sign companies that are in Grafton, without naming a specific one, will they know the type of post that I need, and do most of these sign companies sell them?
I don't know if we
Jan
know
or
the
Jan?
answer to that.
Jan, do we typically see them on the green, like garden fence posts that are driven into the ground with a mini sledge, like a 4-foot, that
Yes.
type of fence post that you might find at a home improvement store?
Yeah,
That
Yes.
type
that
of
at any
post?
Home Depot and stuff, yeah.
Yep, without naming stores, yes, I know what those are. I've installed my own fence and I use those green metal ones just to keep my dog into the yard and not in the neighbor's yard. One thing I did want to mention, we talked about potential structures. There are no structures. What you saw in the imagery was what my client refers to as moon chairs. Those have since been removed because he has moved out of the house. The only thing on the back of the house is the deck that was installed many, many years ago. There are no other structures. There's no sheds. There's nothing.
Okay,
Good.
appreciate the added information.
Thank you.
Okay. So, having had this discussion, Jan, can you just kind of indicate, I agreed with kind of your approach of what a conditional approval would include?
So the proof of the signage installation needs to be submitted by 7:30 at the latest. If it is not received by that date, this becomes a denial. And we will also be changing the ongoing condition to disturbance shall not occur any closer to the bordering vegetated wetlands than it is currently. And we'll create a sketch to show the distance to that.
Sounds good. So, Jonathan and Travis, does that sound doable?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So next thing is, do I have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance with the special conditions and requirements as Jan? So,
Yeah, I'll move to approve the condition certificate of compliance with the conditions described by conservation staff and others.
have a second?
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I am also a yes. And Jan, thank you very much for your contribution to kind of sorting it out. Appreciate that. We don't want to, we're not here to prevent things from happening, but we also just need to make sure that we follow what our responsibilities are too. So,
I
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you all very much for understanding and working with us, and I will be out there tomorrow morning.
all right, please, communicate with Jan and give her a big thank you.
Oh, Jan has heard from me. I've met her in person. I will be calling you tomorrow morning, Jan. So thank you for all that you do. Like you're amazing. Thank you so much, and have a great
Thank you.
night.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Was
I
that the
can meet
last?
you out there whenever if he's gonna do it in the morning, I can go out there with you in the afternoon or whenever you plan on going out there and whatever time works. So
Sure. Yeah, I'll email you and Travis and we'll see how it works.
I
Okay.
can bring a measuring wheel and a measuring tape as well, if that's kosher. And
Okay. Yep.
yeah, I'm just
Alright.
interested mostly to see what's going on, and yeah,
Mhm.
makes sense.
All right. So other action items.
You
So
left.
179 and 183 Upton Street.
Yeah, we do have this request for a certificate of compliance for 95 McGill.
Oh, I missed that one. Whoops, I checked the wrong one.
Yeah.
All right.
So these are for the usual ones that we issue for, that covers the whole subdivision. This lot is not close to any wetlands. It's not close to any of the replication areas. They're looking for a partial release. The work on is complete on this lot. The site is stable and no conditions are specific to this lot.
Okay, so this one here, Travis is not going to be able to vote on this. Okay, so can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue the partial COCs for 95 McGill Drive.
And I'll second that, and we'll do just a roll call vote on this. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
I'm recusing myself.
thank you, and I'm a yes on that, so that motion carries. Okay, next up, Jan.
We need to provide feedback to the select board regarding the right of first refusal for 179 and 183 Upton Street. So these are the last two Robinson lots around Silver Lake. They're within the area of critical environmental concern and riverfront habitat. They've been highly ranked in the town's open space prioritization project. The current offer is $430,000 for both lots.
And then just as an FYI, this has come up in front of CPC, and so there's probably going to be some sort of process through CPC for these lots. So similar to the two that were already purchased. And again, this is just our recommendation to the select board, and then Jan or will create a letter, and whoever comes from Jan or Leah, and it goes to the select board. Any questions on these? I mean, does anyone want to see which lots they are? I mean, we've seen them
I
before.
looked at them.
Okay.
They're on the lake side or on the opposite side?
These are on the
170.
lakeside, correct?
The lake
Yeah.
side.
They're
when the-
close to 140 there.
It's
Between
when the
140 and-
Yeah, when that subdivision, that A&Rs were done, and I think we looked at two of them that were approved, and now they're just selling the two other lots there, so. Obviously, based on what Jan already told us, that this is something that we would probably recommend to the select board that that they pursue trying to acquire them. So, any comments or questions on that? Other than that, we just need to take a quick vote.
No,
And then
I think it'd be great.
it's with
Yeah, what's
everything.
To acquire it to keep it as open space.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Another question?
do I have a
What's
motion?
our-
Go ahead.
Is this just a motion to recommend?
That's it.
Okay. So I'll move
So
to, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to just say, just because it's come out of chapter 61, I think it is. And so anything that comes out chapter 61, which previously you didn't have to pay taxes and stuff on it. So the town has first refusal on
Okay.
anything that comes out of that chapter. So
All
That's
right,
what-
so I
yeah.
would move to recommend to acquire the parcels at 179 and 183 Upton Street.
thank you. Second.
Is the wording, not to be too specific, at 10:24
Yeah.
PM, but is it to recommend the select board exercise the right of first refusal? Is that how we want to word it?
Yeah, well,
don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, that's just basically means to actually obtain them, but that's absolutely fine if that amend that motion to
I'll amend it, that and second it then.
okay. So motion is second, roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
I am also a yes. I am fading quickly. I was in New Jersey this morning,
Me
so
too.
this has been a long day.
I was
Okay.
on Cape Cod this morning, so.
So I had a little bit longer drive.
I know, I was gonna say, it's hot down there though, so probably.
Oh
hotter than
yeah, I
here.
was on site at 6:30 to try to get ahead of the heat. Yeah, it was not fun walking around a big campus. Okay, last thing,
Last thing is to reappoint our representatives to CPC, OSRC, and LQC for this fiscal year. But I'm not sure if you want to wait until more commissioners are here to have that discussion.
I would say we should wait. So when is that due to? I mean, we're in fiscal 25, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, let's wait till August. And that's it, right?
that's it.
Did we do the, and again, did we do the continuance for 17 and 27 Upton Street?
We did that first thing, yeah.
Sorry, then I
Yeah.
didn't miss it. I was there. It was just. sitting in half.
It was so long ago.
Yeah. I mean, this is, we're gonna have to have a word with Leah. And when she goes on vacation, that, we're here at 10:30, although she provided plenty of information, we need to, kind of somehow
Yeah.
correct that.
A
So,
little too much information.
well, no, yeah, it's, there's also two of the bigger projects that we've had, and
Right.
and we're talking about them. So
Mhm.
it is what it is. So other than that, I'll see everyone in August. Yes, my birthday is July 30th,
Mhm.
and I will not be around here for that. So not
Mhm.
that that matters.
Motion
Oh.
to adjourn.
Yeah,
One last
second.
motion.
So a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries +1.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Have a good
Dan.
day.
Good job.
Thank
Thanks
you, everyone.
everyone for showing up.